23-year-old grad student Surya Gunasekara for a series of unpaid loans. Surya says the money in question was a gift.
Yana, this is number 39 on the calendar, the matter of Pugach versus Gunasekara. Really. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Ms. Pugach, what's your first name?
Sandra.
Mr. Gunasekara, your first name?
Surya.
How long have the two of you been dating?
We dated for about 2.5 years.
Did you live together?
No.
But it is your claim that while you were dating, you made a series of loans to him.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Gunasekara says there were no loans, just the give and take of a normal dating relationship, and he acknowledges that you laid out some money for him. He said that that's part of the dating relationship. Is that right, sir?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. When did you start dating?
We started dating in October of 2002.
And when was the first loan that you made to him?
In July of 2004.
What was it for?
It was for a trip. We went on a couple of trips after he got back from Europe after he graduated from college. And the first trip we made was with his parents to Canada. And when we would go out, I would pay. And he would always say, oh, when we get back and I get a job, I'll pay you back. And then we went to my hometown in Georgia, and I paid for the hotel, and we went out to dinner, and he said that he would pay for half of it when we got back, and he got a job.
Well, did he ever get a job?
No.
Huh?
No, Your Honor.
He never got a job?
Not until recently.
What's next?
In August, I went to Barcelona to study abroad for the semester, and I thought he was going to stay home and get a job so he could finally get the money to pay me back. And I would question him on if he's been applying to jobs. He would say he would go into interviews, so I figured he was on a line to get a job eventually, hopefully sooner than later.
Go ahead, Sandra. I'm listening for the rest of the loans.
Okay, so then he moved to Europe, and he eventually came to Barcelona, and I paid for his rent while he lived there, and I paid for his food, and anywhere we would go out, I would pay. And every time I would give him money, he would say, don't worry, you know, when we get back, I'll get a job. I promise I'll pay you back.
Keep going.
Then we finally came back to the States, and he was going to interviews quite often. He would say he got a job offer, but then wouldn't take it.
Keep going with the loans, my dear.
So in March of 2005, we took a trip to Las Vegas, and I paid for everything while we were there. And then I really just got tired of him not paying me back. We got back home.
You say in your complaint that he wanted $500 to gamble with.
Yes.
And you gave it to him.
I did.
Who are these two gentlemen over here?
This is my roommate, Danny McGee, and he was in Vegas with us. And then this is my friend, Devin, and he is a mutual friend of ours. He used to hang out with us. He would see me giving Surya money all the time and him promising to pay me back.
Well, I want to hear about the promise to pay you back. Raise your hand, please.
Sorry, my
Name?
name's Danny. Danny McGee. I'm roommates with Sandy, and I went on a trip to Vegas with both of them. And there's been times in the past where she would give him money to gamble with the agreement that if he lost, she would take the loss, and if he won, that they'd split the winnings. And this trip to Vegas, she was hesitant to go because he didn't have any money. And we got out there, and I saw her $200 or $300 that he borrowed from her. And she said specifically at the time, I'm going to give you this money, and if you lose, you owe it to me. And he agreed and actually lost all the money. And since then, I know he's had 2 jobs and has made no effort to pay her back whatsoever.
You have anything to add to this case?
Yeah, I do, actually. Should I stand up?
Yes, you should.
Okay. Well,
Your name?
my name is Devin Stinson, and I've called him before in the past, and I've said, hey, let's go get some food or something. And he'd say, well, you got to call Sandy because I don't have any money. And then I'd call Sandy, and we'd all go out, and then what would wind up happening is he would order, and then after everything was over, he would say, well, I don't have any money, and he'd just expect it to be paid for.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ball's in your court.
Well, first off, let me say that the only reason I went to Europe was because I had a job. I had an internship with a software company, and I had that for a while, and it didn't end up working out. My plane ticket wasn't for 6 weeks later, So Sandy and I both agreed that it would be good to spend that 6 weeks together because I was actually living in Switzerland at the time. And so I came down to Barcelona. And I did have some income through a rental property of mine. So I was making some type of money.
Surya, how old are you?
23.
Am I correct? According to your answer, you're in law school now?
No, not till August.
Where?
Thomas Jefferson or the University of Denver. I haven't chosen one.
What college did you graduate from?
University of Colorado.
And you?
I'm still in school at the University of Colorado.
Where do you get all this money from, Sandra?
I have 2 jobs that I work.
What 2 jobs do you work?
I am the assistant manager at a bowling alley at the school, and I work for the housing department at the university.
Who's paying your tuition?
My parents are.
Did they like him?
Sometimes. Most of the time.
Well, I'm sure he can be charming.
You sure can.
When the first time you went out for dinner with him, and he said, I'm sorry, I left my wallet in my other car. I left my wallet in Switzerland. That should have been a clue. It sounds to me, based upon what this young man has testified to, that this was sort of a regular occurrence. You would go out for a meal, he would eat, and you would pay. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Should have known better, Sandra. Who is this, by the way?
This is Ryan Watson. He's my roommate.
Does he have anything to contribute to this case?
Yeah. I'll let him explain.
I witnessed on many occasions Surya doing favors for Sandy, tutoring her and cleaning and making her dinner and things like that. And on some of those occasions, she would ask Surya to help her do those things, and Surya would say, no, not right now, I'm busy. But then she would say, Surya, you owe me so much money, using that against him, and he would end up doing that. So in both our opinions...
So you mean he was bartering domestic chores
right.
for the money he owed her?
Right.
And educational, Your Honor.
Surya, do you think that Sandra tutored you in some things?
As far as school?
Anything!
It's quite possible.
She didn't charge you for it, did she?
Emotionally, she charged me.
How did she... Shh, come on, folks. Come on, behave. Let's behave. How did she charge you emotionally?
I had to put up with so much ridiculous nonsense.
Surya, that you don't have to put up with it. I don't want to hear it. You weren't tethered to a radiator, were you?
In a metaphorical sense.
No metaphorical sense. No metaphorical
Literally,
sense.
no.
You were in Switzerland. She was in Barcelona. Nobody got a magnet and attached it to you in Switzerland. You came down there by your...
own recognizance.
You're not in law school yet. Let's stick to the English you understand, sir.
Okay.
You think you took advantage of her?
I don't.
You just think that she understood what she was getting herself into. She had the money at the time. You did not.
Right.
And she wanted to travel to Vegas. You said, I'll go with you, but I have no money.
Yeah, she understood
and she said,
that I had no
I got the money. You pay me back when you get a job.
No, the arrangement was she was going to cover all the expenses.
Why?
Why? Because they needed a third person to go. Danny and her weren't just going to go by themselves.
Why?
Because they needed motivation. And I was that motivation.
Sandra,
Yes,
you
sir.
schlepped around with him for 2 years.
Yes,
You
Your Honor.
let him take advantage of you for 2 years. So then what you do is you say, thank God I figured out that this was not Mr. Right. Before I planned a wedding with him, I had a child with him. You can sit down now, roommate. I don't think you had a valid contract with him. I think you had the hopes and the dreams of a young lady who was in love. And I'm sure that there was a time when he felt mutually. But you're a giver, and he's a taker. Somehow in his own mind, he is entitled to take. Where are your parents?
In Santa Monica?
Did they indulge you?
Not really.
Sounds to me as if you've been indulged. Switzerland, Barcelona, working, not working, looking for just the right gig. The girlfriend takes care of you. There's a sense, Surya, of entitlement. Shh, do not answer. Now it's my turn. Sandra may find you irresistible, I guarantee you, sir. I do not. So, Sandra, I wish in my heart I could say to you, you had a valid contract, which is the only thing that I'm here to address. You did not have a contract recognized in the law for him to pay you back. But I'm telling you, I think that you're lucky, because you're a lovely-looking, intelligent, hard-working young lady who should not hitch her star to somebody who has a sense of entitlement and who will just use you in one way or another for your whole life. Got it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Goodbye. Good luck.
Parties are excused.
Sure,
You may step out.
Grow up.
She made her decision. That's fine. I hope Sandy has a great life, and I wish her well.
We were in a relationship, and when you're in a relationship, you do things together. You cook dinner and you clean.
They're about sharing and trust.
You help the other person out when they need help, and that's all part of a relationship.
And we loved each other.
I've learned to not just give out my money to people because I think I'm in love.
She gave up believing in me.
Obviously, it didn't work out for me this time, so I'll just keep my money in my pockets.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Grimm versus Bynum. Step forward, please.
Student Ingrid Grimm is suing the great-grandmother of her daughter's friend, Amy Bynum, for damage to their pocket bike. Ingrid says Amy's great-granddaughter, 9-year-old Michaela, wrecked it during a birthday party.
Miss Grimm, your daughter was having a birthday party. What birthday was she celebrating?
Actually, it was two of my daughters, my 11-year-old and my 13-year-old.
How many children did you have at the party?
There was approximately 20 to 25 children.
And Miss Bynum's granddaughter was one of those children, and you are her guardian, is that right?
Yes.
It is your claim that Miss Bynum's granddaughter rode a pocket bike. And it's a motorized bike, is that right?
Yes, gas.
And she damaged the bike. You want her grandmother to pay for it.
Yes.
Tell me how that happened.
Well, it was understood that the party...
Don't tell me what was understood. Just tell me what happened.
During the course of the party, we had allowed the children to ride. We have approximately 8 different bikes. And they were given certain rules that they had to follow in order to be able to ride the bikes. And Michaela did not follow those rules and therefore damaged the bike.
What rule didn't she follow?
Well, they were only supposed to go a certain distance, still within visual range of our house, which is approximately 8 to 9 houses, which is 1 block's length. Turn around and come back. And then she was supposed to take turns.
And who was watching them at that time?
I was outside in the garage, and then my boyfriend, Rodney.
Well, who was watching Michaela? That's Michaela over there?
Yes.
Who was watching Michaela?
Everybody was, because the children...
No, not everybody. Were you watching her?
No, not at the time.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Miss Grimm, I'm going to ask you a couple of more questions.
Okay.
Then I'm going to end this torture.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ingrid Grimm says 9-year-old Michaela Nash wrecked her twin daughter's pocket bike while riding it at their birthday party. Michaela's great-grandmother, Amy Bynum, says Ingrid allowed Michaela to ride the bike without her consent.
Michaela, I want you to stand up next to your grandma, okay? How did you know that Michaela had damaged the bike? Did somebody come and say Michaela fell off the bike?
Yes. It was about 5 children that had come and told us that.
Who did they come and tell?
They told both me and Rodney.
So that what you're telling me, Miss Grimm, is that neither you nor Rodney were watching Michaela. Is that correct?
Yes, we were.
You weren't. Because you just said to me, 5 children came and told me that Michaela had had an accident on the bike. And I said, who did they come and tell? And you said they came and told me and my boyfriend, which suggests to me that neither you nor your boyfriend was supervising the child when she was on the bike. Right?
Okay, you can say that, yes.
You see, you don't have to say anything yet. You're going to tell me what happened to the bike, Michaela, very fast. Tell me what happened to the bike.
I ran into the curb, and then the bike and the tire wouldn't move.
Were you driving someplace where you weren't supposed to be driving?
No.
Were you driving up the block?
Mm-hmm.
Had other children driven to the same location?
They drove a little farther.
Really? And who was watching you when you were driving?
Rodney.
Rodney. Where was he?
He was at the house.
Was he there when the other children were riding further than you rode?
Yes.
Were you hurt?
No.
Miss Grimm, I'm going to ask you a couple of more questions.
Okay.
Then I'm going to end this torture. Let us say, Michaela, who was driving a motorized bike in the street. The law permits you to do that?
Yes.
How fast do they go?
Anywhere from 15 to 20 miles, I think.
15 to 20 miles an hour?
Yes.
How old are you, Michaela?
9.
Ms. Grimm, let us assume that, heaven forbid, Michaela had an accident on this bike and was injured. Do you think you would be liable for her injuries?
Yes.
Why?
Well, because she was at my party that I was supervising.
Correct. So why in the world would you think that her grandmother is responsible for the damage to the bike?
Because she did not follow the rules, and she went further than where she was supposed to.
That was your responsibility to make sure that she didn't, not her grandmother's. When you invite children to your home to a birthday party, you become an insurer of their well-being. It is your responsibility to supervise them all the time that they're there. And if you elect to allow them to ride on a vehicle that can go 15 to 20 miles an hour, if there's an accident, you are 100% responsible. Did you tell her grandmother you were going to be allowing her to drive that bike?
All the parents were aware.
Were you made aware of that fact?
No, I was not.
I asked you whether you made Miss Bynum aware that you were going to allow her granddaughter to ride this bike.
All the parents were aware.
No, you can't answer the question, Miss Grimm, by saying to me all the parents were aware. You can't tell me what they were aware of when I ask you a simple question, which is, did you tell Miss Bynum that her granddaughter was going to be using a motorized vehicle?
I told all the parents of
When
the children.
did you tell Miss Bynum?
Well, when she dropped the children off.
What did you tell Miss Bynum?
I let them know that...
No. What did you tell Miss Bynum? What did you tell Miss Bynum when she dropped off Michaela?
Well, we introduced ourselves, and I thanked her for allowing her granddaughter to come to the birthday party. I let them know that what was...
Not you let them know. I want you to tell me what you said to Miss Bynum.
I don't recall.
Miss Bynum, is anything said to you about your granddaughter riding a motorized bike?
No. I would not have left her at the party if it was.
In any way, Miss Grimm, you are an insurer of the minor children left in your care and custody when you invite children to a birthday party. If they damage something in your home, it's your fault. If they hurt themselves when they damage something in your home, it's your fault. So you can't invite more children to a party than you're prepared to supervise properly, and I certainly would exercise better judgment than allowing a 9-year-old child to get on a motorized bike that's capable of going 20 miles an hour. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Povero versus Gavan. Step forward, please.
When Officer Frank Povero was attempting to arrest Linda Given for fleeing the scene, he claims she took a bite out of him. She says she was in a big hurry to pick up her kid.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 4 on the calendar in the matter of Povero versus Gavan. You may be seated.
You are a police officer, sir, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are suing the defendant?
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Guzman, who you were placing under arrest. You said while you were placing her under arrest, she bit you.
Yes.
What were you placing her under arrest for?
It was a citizen's arrest that started with a hit and run, which turned into a vandalism, and which continued on to a battery against the victim.
Is this the victim?
Yes, it is.
Step up, please. Would you state your name?
Annette McElwain.
All right, Miss McElwain, would you tell me briefly what happened?
I pulled into a drive-through at a Jack in the Box, and Linda was in front of me. I guess she decided...
You're Linda. Yes, I am.
I guess she decided she didn't want to be in the line. It was too long, so she started backing up and didn't look before she backed up, I guess, backed into me. We both got out, looked at our vehicles. There was no damage. Not once did she apologize or say anything. We just looked at the vehicles and noticed that there wasn't anything, and I said, maybe next time before backing up, you might want to look before you're doing it, hun, and got into my car. Well, she said, well, that's just too bad. Had an attitude about it, so I just thought, okay. Then I said, perhaps I should just write down your license plate number and sue you. At that point, I got into my car.
I'm going to let you tell your story.
She didn't get into her car. She came at my car. My car door was shut, but my window was down. She opened my car door, started yelling at me, pushed at me. At this point, I was petrified. It's lunchtime. There was a lot of people around, so I hollered out that maybe this was a good time for somebody to call the police. She continued yelling at me. When she finally slammed the car door shut, I rolled the window up, locked the door. She started pounding at my windows. rambling on some more, and as she walked away, she hit at my side view mirror and broke it, got into her car and drove away.
Police showed up and you reported the incident?
Yes.
And as a result of that, you became involved. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
So you received a radio run of this?
Well, I was on patrol and I received a broadcast that a hit and run had just occurred, and the suspect vehicle was northbound through our city, and I saw a vehicle matching the description, pulled in behind it. The license plate was the same.
Ms. Gavan, tell me about what happened to the line in Jack in the Box first.
Okay, I looked at my watch. It was taking too long. I backed up. I didn't see her car. I bumped her bumper. We both got out the car. Both our cars were okay, like she said, and she didn't like what I said, and
well, what did you
she
say?
proceeded to cuss me out.
What did you say?
Well, I probably said, oh, well, or something like that. I don't really remember what I said. But she told me that her exact words were exactly what she said, and I said, what did you say?
But you had said something first.
I just said something. I didn't cuss at her until she cussed at me. And we had words.
Then what happened? So you had words, and then what happened?
She had words. She backed up. I went forward. I continued to cuss her out. She did what she said. I turned around. I accidentally broke her rearview mirror, gave her the finger, got in my car, and left.
Okay, so right now, based upon your two versions of the story, yours and yours, you did break her rearview mirror.
Yes, I did.
And you did that on purpose.
No, I didn't.
You did that by accident.
Yes, I did.
But you knew you did it, and you took off anyway.
I just left. I was angry.
Okay. Now we get to the officer, so you may sit down. So what happened? You pulled over her car.
I pulled her over and she jumped out and yelled, "What's going on?"
Go ahead.
So the witnesses came by and identified her also, and at that point, Miss McElwain wanted her to be arrested for a citizen's arrest for the hit and run. So I explained to Miss Givehan here the process, that we were going to take her into custody and take her to jail, and right away she said, no, I don't want to do that. And she started backing away from us. So I calmly explained the situation again to her, that she could make a big scene downtown in front of a lot of people and make a lot of commotion, or she could just put her hands behind her back and let us put the handcuffs on her and take her to jail and sort it all out there. She didn't want anything to do with that. She said, no, I'm not going to go anywhere. And she put her arms out like this and leaned forward, and she wasn't going to budge. So the other officers and I, we each took one of her hands, and we wanted to put her hands behind her back, and she was adamant she wasn't going to go, and she tightened up, and we couldn't control her. And for about 3 minutes, we, struggled with her, moving around the sidewalk while we tried to control her. And at that time, I saw her open her mouth and lunge down towards my hand, and that's when she bit me on the back of the hand, which of course startled me and was painful, and I let go and warned the other officers that she had bit me so that that wouldn't happen to them. And while she had was kind of shocked at that time, then we were able to grip her and put her into custody.
Okay.
He was just telling me that I was going to go to jail, and I was like, I can't go to jail. I said, I need to call. I was basically scared because of my child. That was it. I wanted to call.
Why were you scared because of your child?
Because my little boy was at school, and I wanted to know when I was going to call. Could I call for somebody to come pick up my child? And he basically told me I'll call when I get there, and basically he'll let me call when he wants me to call. And that's basically what he was telling me. And I was like, I'm not going until I know I can call when I get there about my child. Because, he's not going to know where I am. He's going to be crying.
But you're surrounded by police officers.
And when they started approaching me, I backed up. Now I got scared. I was scared for my child. I wasn't basically scared for myself.
But you bit him.
No, I didn't bite him. I raked my teeth across his knuckles.
Did she flee the scene? Did she bite the cop? Stay tuned.
So it was turning out to be a terrible day.
It was a bad day.
When Officer Frank Povero was attempting to arrest Linda Given for fleeing the scene, he claims she took a bite out of him. She says she was in a big hurry to pick up her kid.
They tried to arrest me. I stiffened up because I was scared. He tried to break my wrist. I told him he was going to break it. He told me yes, he was going to snap my wrist.
So why didn't you just let him put the handcuff on you?
I was scared, very scared. And then I didn't bend over. They bent me over. And that's when I raked my teeth across his knuckles.
Why'd you do that?
I didn't know what he was going to do to me. He could have hit me in my mouth. You know, he could have been trying to, you know, because he was already, and my wrist was swollen by the time they put the handcuffs, and they tightened them. And I did have bruises to prove it, that they tightened him very well.
You still didn't tell me why you either bit him or raked your fingers over his hand.
I was basically still talking. He was trying to tell me to be quiet, you know, shut up or whatever, and I was scared.
What kind of a job do you have?
I'm a preschool teacher.
You seem like a rather soft-spoken lady.
Yes.
Officer Pavaro, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. Didn't you feel, and I'm not faulting you, but didn't you feel as if it was somewhat overkill to arrest this lady for this rearview mirror incident?
It wasn't my decision to make, Your Honor. It was a private person's arrest, and I'm bound by the law to follow through with it.
You have directions, rules of your command that say when a private citizen wants a citizen's arrest on a misdemeanor, this was clearly a misdemeanor charge, correct?
Correct.
You are obligated to take that person into custody, or can you give them what we call a desk appearance ticket to appear on another day?
If the victim is adamant that they want that person to go to jail, then that's what we have to do.
Why were you adamant about her going to jail?
She was an angry individual that didn't need to be out on the streets at that time.
Why do you think he was so angry that day? Anything happened that day other than this?
I went to Kmart before that, and I couldn't get any satisfaction, so I calmly left.
What happened at Kmart?
Well, they lost my stuff.
Tell me about that, because I'm trying to figure out how a nice lady like you got herself involved in this kind of an incident, because there had to be something more to it, and I think I'm getting there. So what happened at Kmart?
I put something on layaway, and they misplaced it, and I had to wait to get my money back. So I said, I can't wait, so I left.
So it was turning out to be a terrible day for you.
It was a bad day.
And this was just the capper.
Yeah, the icing on the cake.
I assume that that's not your usual personality.
No.
You know that you're not supposed to resist if somebody is putting you under arrest. You knew that you did the wrong thing. You left the scene of an accident. You did, in fact, break her mirror. You probably did it on purpose. Probably did it on purpose because you were angry. You took it out on this lady. She's a stranger to you. You know, so probably owe her an apology. She didn't want to be there. She doesn't want to be here. Now you have to tell me, sir, what kind of damages are you seeking? How much do you think is reasonable now that you know the whole story, officer?
I feel that I should be compensated for the full amount that I can, I am able to get from Ms. Givan.
Tell me what damages you suffered.
Well, not only the pain of being bitten and then going for medical care and shots and inoculations and blood tests, but also the humiliation of the altercation in the middle of a downtown busy time.
Well, that comes as part of your job.
Well,
that's
to some extent, right.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that of the emotional distress that I had to wait 3 weeks while the judge mandated her, under her protest, to have a blood sample analyzed to see if I was infected with anything. I had to wait for 3 weeks to hear from the judge whether or not I had been infected with anything. That's a very highly emotional time for me and my family, which time I had to take precautions so that I wouldn't contaminate or spread anything that I might have had to my family.
She's ready to rule. When Officer Frank Povero was attempting to arrest Linda Given for fleeing the scene, he claims she took a bite out of him. She says she was in a big hurry to pick up her kid.
I told him that he can contact my doctor, and I was willing to give him my doctor's name and phone number. I didn't have any kind of communicable disease. No, I didn't.
Well,
I just, she asked me to take a
blood test right
blood
away?
test. They could try to give me something. I don't know.
They wouldn't give you anything. Come on.
The judge had to force her to do that.
Okay. And you have a 5-year-old, did you say?
A 3-year-old.
3-year-old. Well, let me ask you this question. If some adult for one reason or another, caused a break in the skin in your 3-year-old, for whatever reason, would you worry these days?
Yes, I would.
Well, that's what he's saying. All right. Officer, you were doing your job. The defendant was in a highly emotional state, having nothing to do with you or had nothing to do with the victim. She clearly did the wrong thing. And I think she understands that she did the wrong thing. It was a bad day. Unfortunately, you're responsible for what you did to the officer. You can't take out your bad day on the officer. You did, in fact, plead guilty. That's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Just a minute. That's proof by beyond a reasonable doubt. The quantum of proof here is much less. The judgment in this case, therefore, is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. Thank you.
Order Judge Judy, step out, please.
He's just a paranoid police officer.
Just because you had a bad day doesn't mean that you can take it out on the general public.
No, I didn't take it out on the general public.
And now, the next case.
All parties on Hughes versus Klein. Step forward, please.
James Hughes says he loaned Marcus Klein his car at 2 o'clock in the morning. It was found wrecked the next day. But Marcus doesn't recall driving, much less crashing the car.
Your Honor, this is case number 51 on the calendar in the matter of Hughes versus Klein. You may be seated.
Mr. Hughes and Mr. Klein, somebody was drunk and damaged a car.
No.
Interesting. Mr. Hughes, according to your complaint, the defendant borrowed your car, wrecked it, abandoned it, and the damage, including the towing fees and storage fees, of $4,540. So why don't you tell me about that evening?
Yes, well, I let the defendant use my car to run into town. 2:30 or so at night, and early in the morning he hadn't returned. I was notified by the hospital security that my car was in an accident and I needed to contact the highway patrolman.
Had you ever lent him your car before?
I've loaned him my car once before. Tried to make contact with him. I didn't get in contact with him until about 10:30ish that night. He wavered back and forth as to his...
What do you mean he wavered back and forth?
Wavered in regard to his responsibilities. Oh, I parked your car, or were you sure that I used your car?
Tell me about what happened when he came to borrow the car. What time did he borrow the car, sir?
It was about 20 minutes until 2 o'clock in the morning. He came by playing his chess. They're both inseparable.
What's inseparable?
Computer chess game. The computer chess game that he has. I gave him my spare key. I've only received one key from the dealer when I bought the car. I assumed that he would return within the next 45 minutes.
What did he want the car for at that hour in the morning?
He's going to make a beer run.
What's a beer run?
A beer run. Last call for alcohol.
Last call for alcohol.
Yes.
So he was going to buy alcohol and you let him use your car.
Yeah.
Smart.
We'd been drinking already all that night. Okay, I don't remember seeing him that night. At 1:30.
Were you drunk that night?
Yes. I don't have a history of drinking and driving. I have no DUIs, no problems with drinking, nothing like that. No history of blacking out.
Do you remember where you were that night?
Yes, upstairs from my room with my neighbor. Me and him were drinking at 12:30.
He says we have a hard time remembering many things about that particular night.
That night, okay.
You mentioned that your daughter
just a second. I'll get to you. Go ahead.
When I walked into this friend's house and I saw him there, she goes, yeah, I saw you and James.
Joe, tell me what a friend said. Listen to me. He got in touch with you 10 o'clock the next day.
The next day, yeah.
Okay, where was the car at this point, sir?
The car was in storage in a facility.
Where had the car been found?
The car had been found opposite of the direction that he stated that he was going. It was found in Oxnard, or leading to Oxnard Freeway.
Had it been wrecked?
And it had been wrecked. Yes, it ran into strawberry pylons.
When he called you 10 o'clock the next day, what did you say to him?
No, 10 o'clock the next day, I went to his apartment. And he says, where's the car? And I'm going, what do you mean, where's the car? He says, I loaned you the car. If I wrecked that car, I would have paid for it, and I don't mind.
But you don't, sir, you were drunk that night. You said so in your answer.
But I don't drink and drive, and I don't have a history of it. I never do. Never.
He tells me that his daughter talked with him and spoke with him that night and swears up and down that she spoke with him. He doesn't remember.
At 3 o'clock I talked to my daughter about 10 days after that. She said I called her about 3 o'clock in the morning that night, that same night, saying that I was going to pick her up the next day. She goes to school.
Okay, so did you remember that?
Did I remember calling her? No.
Well, so then you had a bad period that night.
No, the car was found on Wanimi Road about 5, 6 miles, 7 miles in the middle of nowhere, okay? To drive the car, wreck it, and then to walk home on the darkest, one of the most dangerous roads in Ventura County and not remember any of it?
Is there anything on that road that would be sort of on the way to something else where the car was found? Was it on the way to a shopping center, to a bar, to anything else?
Oxnard Ave, no.
So nobody in their right mind would be on that road at that hour?
At that
There's
hour?
no reason why anyone in their right mind would be on that road at that hour of the night. Is that true?
That's the way you're making it sound, yeah. If I was that drunk to where I wouldn't remember, nobody in their right mind would loan me their car.
You asked me how did you look? You know, were you drunk? Hey, you look like you always look, you know. I really can't tell.
She's ready to rule.
As if you were good friends once. Mr. Klein, I have a sense, sir, that you experienced something for the first time in your life.
Oh, no.
And that is a blackout when you were drinking. Forget the car. If you don't remember speaking to your child, then the alcohol has gotten to you. I would do something about this alcohol problem that I believe has clearly gotten the best of you. In the meantime, I have to make a judgment about what happened in this case, and based upon what I've heard, based upon the fact that this car is on a road to nowhere, based upon the fact that the defendant acknowledges that the plaintiff does not drink, that only somebody who was out of their mind, at least at the moment, would be on that road at 2:30 in the morning. I'm entering a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested, which was the cost of the damage, and I've seen the estimates, and the storage of the car in the amount of $4,200. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
Judge Judy will be...
All parties on Binion versus Miller. Step forward, please.
Nadia Miller went to rent an apartment from Vernon Binion. Instead, he talked her into taking a bag of beauty products. She says he's a con artist. He wants her to pay.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 18 on the calendar in the matter of Binion versus Miller. You may be seated.
Mr. Binion.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your suit against Miss Miller is for $198 for some beauty supplies
That's correct.
that you say she took from your house.
That's right.
Did you take those supplies from his house?
He gave them to me as samples.
Well, tell me how you got to the house and tell me how you got the samples.
I answered an ad in the newspaper, the Santa Barbara News Press, for a room for rent. I called up. There was no price in the ad.
That's incorrect, Your Honor. The ad said $1,200.
Well, at one point in the conversation,
She offered
okay, I
you
called.
$600.
I called numerous.
Shh, listen. I'm going to get to you in a minute.
Thank you.
Don't interrupt her. Go ahead.
I answered numerous ads. Okay.
I'm not interested in numerous
Okay.
ads.
Anyway,
His ad.
he finally says the room is $1,200, and I right away said, "There's nothing more to talk about. That is way not in my means." And beforehand, I told him that I worked in sales, and he said that he had this international marketing business and that he needed some new people and that maybe I could work the rent off.
Were you at the house at that time?
No.
This was over the phone?
Right.
Go ahead.
And finally, he said, well, maybe you could work it off or maybe, you know, I could use a new salesperson. So I discussed it with my boyfriend and he said, well, maybe not for the room, but go over there. You can always use an extra job. So, you know, it was like a ruse to get me over there for a job. That's why I went over there.
Go ahead.
And I got there and we walked into the dining room and I see all these shampoos and stuff. And then I realized it's like an Avon deal. You know, I sold Avon when I was 12. I thought I was going on a real job interview and maybe looking about a place, even though it was out of my budget.
So?
And then he said, oh, well, you know, you could sell this stuff. And I said, you know what? I don't know anybody around here. My family's in New York. You know, I don't know anybody to sell this stuff to. Basically, you know, I don't want to do it. And he just kept, you know, pursuing it and, you know, just saying, oh, you know, you could sell this stuff. He's like, just try it, you know, try it out for a couple days. Here's some samples, use it for a while, tell your friends about it, you know, and he was so persistent, I finally just wanted to get out of there and, you know, he caught me at a weak and vulnerable moment and, you know, I didn't want to do it. He was just persistent. And when I went to my boss...
Just a second. So you took the samples
That he gave to me. And we're not talking about, I didn't take anything from his
No, but you
property.
took the samples in a bag and you took them home, right?
That's correct.
And then what happened with the plaintiff? Don't tell me about your boss. Just tell me about what happened with him.
Well, when I got back, I have a witness because he was there when I got back with the products. I didn't look at anything that was in this bag. Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
Stay right there, ma'am.
When was the next time you heard from Mr. Binion?
I don't know, a week or so.
And what did he say?
He said, what'd you think of it?
Yeah.
And basically, you know, I'm really busy. I work 40 hours a week.
So what did you say when I'm not
I was like,
interested in your
I don't know. I was
life,
like,
madam.
it was all right. And he goes, what are you going to order? And I'm like,
right.
Order? I don't want to order anything.
Okay.
I don't like it.
So?
And then, you know, it was like, he just kept, you know, I wouldn't hear from him for a while, and then he was like, you know, well, for a while we played phone tag because I didn't, you know, I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to order anything. You know what I mean?
So did you say, I'll give you your stuff back?
Yeah. And then we kept making appointments for it, and I didn't have time. And, you know, he kept demanding that I bring it back, like, hours that I was working. Yeah.
Is this
and the
all the
video
stuff?
cassette and the cassette.
This is all the stuff.
Yeah.
Did you use the stuff?
I used some of it. He said to use it.
Did you tell
They
her to
were
use?
quarter and half empty.
Did you tell her to use some of the stuff and see if she liked
Yes,
it?
and she loved it, and she even ordered some, and she made 2 appointments.
That's a lie.
Just listen, madam.
I've got a
Madam.
receipt here that's dated. For the
Try
products
not to
ordered.
talk when I'm talking, sir.
He is lying, Judge.
Listen to me. You don't act disrespectfully in my courtroom. I told him he was to wait until you finished. Now he's speaking. Now keep your mouth closed until he's finished. We understand each other?
Yes.
Good. Go ahead. Did you give her these products to use for herself or to use in hopes of her becoming a sales representative for these products?
She left after we met on August 5th, apparently interested in exploring a business opportunity.
Don't tell me what she was apparently. So you gave it to her
I would
to
not
use?
have given it to her if she had not expressed an interest.
Just a minute. You gave her these products
That's correct.
to use to see if she liked it, to see
Exactly.
if she wanted to go into business
And
with
the
you.
agreement was 4 days. She was to. I gave them to her on a Monday. She promised to return them on the following Thursday.
Whatever portion was left.
Right. Well,
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Have you ever engaged a representative in this manner before? By having somebody come and answer an ad in a paper for a room? Yes or no, sir?
The ad was for a rental.
That's not my question. Have you ever engaged somebody
I do
to act
run
as a
ads.
to act as a representative for these products by putting an ad in the paper for a room?
No.
She's ready to rule. Stay tuned. She says she was stuck with a bag of beauty products she didn't want. He says he wants to get paid.
You mean just when she called you on the phone to answer this ad, you thought she had a nice voice and you thought maybe she could be a representative without even seeing her?
What I thought, Your Honor, was she had a lot of courage to call an ad that was advertised for $1,200 and offer me $600 for half of the space. And I found it interesting. We struck up a good conversation, and she told me on the phone that she was ready to move up. And so I told her about my business. I've been doing this for 3 years. I have a business that spans the globe, and I'm very successful at it.
But these kits, sir, are really test kits, and some of the things that you gave her, according to her statement, had already been opened and used some of the products before you gave them to her.
That's true.
That's true. Here you go. Would you take this, please? Give it to the plaintiff. Give it to the plaintiff. Shh. Quiet. You now have back your products. This case is over. Thank you very much.
What is our excuse? Step out.
It's an amazing that I had to come this far to get my products returned to me.
I'm very happy with the decision. I think she figured out that the whole ad in the paper was a ruse. The scam is over with him, you know. I mean, I think he's burnt his bridges on selling these products in Santa Barbara, and I hope he doesn't take advantage of anybody else.
And now, the next case.
Party's on Robinson versus Saltzman. Step forward, please.
Asher Robinson and Mandy Salzman were together, off and on. When they were on, they bought a car. Now, they're totally off. She kept the car, but he wants the money.
According to your complaint, you two people lived together back in 1994. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't realize I had put that in the complaint.
Well, it's in the complaint or the answer.
Okay.
And bought a car together.
That is correct.
Now you don't live together anymore.
No.
So now this is about the car.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
We bought a car together. She put in $700, I put in $1,700. We decided whoever kept the car would pay the other off. We put it in her name because I had no driver's license. We split up. She took the car. Did not at that time make her sign a promissory note. She went to Las Vegas, then Arizona, and on her return to pick me up in San Diego and take me back home, the car broke. I went and picked her and the car up. I fixed the car. About a month later, we broke up again, and she took the car, at which time I insisted she sign a promissory note if she was going to take the car. I offered to pay for her $700 and keep the car, but she chose to pay me off. The claim that I had came due on the 15th of August, and I gave her ample time to pay me since then. I received one payment of $100 since that time, and I decided if I was going to get the money, I was going to have to take her to court.
When we broke up originally in January, I had given him $600, so that was already towards what I had owed him.
That's not true. I mean, obviously has no way to prove that, but that's not true.
Obviously, but it is true.
You gave him $600 in cash?
Yes. It was my last 2 paychecks that I gave him before I went, when we broke up for that month. When the car broke down...
Did she give you any money?
I told you she gave me $100.
Other than this $100, did she give you any money around that time?
No. That's complete trash.
Go ahead.
And then I gave him $150 in August because I did not have the rest of what I had owed him.
It was in August, and it was $100.
Did you give that to him in cash, too?
Yes, and he had actually offered at that time to give me a receipt. And
she declined.
I declined because I figured it was never going to come to this.
Can I see the promissory note, please? Thank you, Bert. Mandy, did you sign this promissory note?
Yes, I was actually forced to. He closed the garage door on my car and was told that I could not leave unless I signed it.
Well, tell me about that.
That was an interesting day. That was the day we broke up, actually. We got into an argument. And
over the car?
Over the car, as usual. And it progressed into being physical where Asher pushed me, and I realized I just had to leave. So I went up and I was packing all my stuff up. And when I was almost done, Asher, right in front of his mother, hit me. So I pretty much, at this point...
Did you hit her?
No.
His mother would not be able to... Your mother would stand here and say that, Asher.
Don't listen to her.
Sorry. So I got in the car, and his mom said that basically if I don't... Well, she closed the garage door on the car, his electric garage door, and said if I did not sign these papers that I could not leave. So I did.
Why didn't you just, under those circumstances, say, well, I'll leave the car, you give me my $700 back, and you can have the car?
Well, I'd already given him, at that point, $600. And
I'm not so sure you gave him $600 already for the car.
Your sister knows I gave you that money, Asher.
And why don't you have something signed for my sister? I mean, that's complete
Because I didn't know it was going to come to this. I didn't think you would deny the fact that I gave that to you when I left for Vegas.
Why would you give him money?
Facts. This is
because
not
I
a
was
court of
leaving,
hearsay.
and we at that point, we were not sure if we were going to break up at first, and so I was leaving for a month break. And he was so upset that I was going to take the car that I said, well, fine, I'll just give you this money because I'm going to my mom's house, and I let him keep it.
I was upset that you were going to take the car that I paid $1,700 for. And yes, I asked for you to pay for the car if you were going to take it. And yes, you said you would, and I left you without the promissory note. It wasn't until you already proved yourself dishonest that I made you sign the promissory note.
8 months later,
and now you're going to sit here and try and lie and say that you paid me $600 and try and say that I hit you on television in front of all these people.
Why
you hit me close spaces on my left side in front of your mom, Asher, and she screamed, "Look what you're bringing out of him."
Miss Osman, if you were leaving under those kinds of circumstances, why wouldn't you get a receipt for the $600 that you say you gave him? I mean, you're not parting as friends. You were leaving, and you were making a substantial payment on what you say you owed him. So it would seem to me to be...
I never thought he would take me to court. I thought it would be through friends that I could pay him off for the car.
I told you.
Well, you weren't friends. Clearly at that point you were angry with each other because you just told me that he...
When I left for Vegas in January, we weren't like... we'd gotten to an argument, and he raised his hand to me and called me a really foul word in front of his family. And I said, I'm leaving. And so I got my stuff and got in the car, and we talked about it. And he was almost in tears when I was leaving, like, we should work this out some way. And I was like, no, let me just go for a month and, like, have some space with my family and have some time away. So you can keep the money, and I'll be back. At least you're going to have some payment towards the car.
What is all this? This has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you owe me $1,700.
No, just a second. She's saying, sir, that she gave you $600, and I'm trying to figure out if I believe that.
She got the car. He wants the money. The case continues in a moment.
Is what you're telling me is you kept cashing your paychecks and storing the money someplace in the house?
Yeah.
Well, you just told me what your paychecks were, and they didn't even add up to $600.
I gave him $600. That's the whole point of it. I gave him $600.
And I'm trying to figure out where you got $600 from.
Asher Robinson and Mandy Salzman were together off and on. When they were on, they bought a car. Now they're totally off. She kept the car, but he wants the money.
I'm trying to figure out if I believe that she gave you $600. Clearly you are owed some money from this car, but I'm not exactly sure how much it is. So that's what I'm trying to ascertain, whether I believe that you received from her, first time you split up, $600. So, Ms. Salzman, you were leaving him. You told me this whole story, and you said, well, I told him to just keep the money. What I want to know is when you say you gave him the money.
It was a week before Christmas, in actually December. So
and then you stayed together until when?
Well, I left for a month, and I came back in the end of January. I left before Christmas and came back 2 weeks into January. And we got back together again.
I want you to tell me exactly under what circumstances you said you gave him the $600.
Under the circumstances that I was leaving and going to take the car.
Tell me, were you in the living room? Were you in the kitchen? Were you in the driveway? Were you in the car?
We were upstairs in the bedroom, and
all right, you were upstairs in the bedroom.
I was packing my stuff and leaving for Christmas.
Okay, and he said to you what? And you said to him what? Come on.
I said that I'm leaving, and he said, well, give me money for the car, give me something. And I said, I don't have anything. I said,
just a minute ago.
I said, I need the car to leave. You're in your hometown with your family. You'll have your sister's car. I'm going to leave for the month. And this is all I had. I had 2 or 3 paychecks that I had cashed right before we left Northern California to come to Southern California. And I gave him that money to...
Just a minute. So your paychecks were for how much?
There was 3 of them. There were approximately... One was like $250. One was like $140. I don't remember actually all the exact prices for paychecks I saved up because I had money at the time in my bank and I didn't cash the paychecks yet.
You had or you had not cashed the paycheck?
I had not until we left Northern California. So I had all this money left because of Northern California. Because we're doing okay.
You go to the bank and you cash one paycheck.
I didn't cash the paychecks in front of him. Like at that point, I'd already had the money.
So is what you're telling me is you kept cashing your paychecks and storing the money someplace in the house?
Yeah. Well, in the bank, and then I had extra money in the house when I was leaving.
Well, where'd you get the extra money from?
Well, the money that I didn't put in the bank was extra.
But you put some of the paycheck money in the bank?
Yeah.
Well, you just told me what your paychecks were, and they didn't even add up to $600. So if you put some of the money in the bank, and you had some of the money in the house...
I gave him $600. That's the whole point of it. I gave him $600.
And I'm trying to figure out where you got $600 from. I don't believe that you gave him $600.
Well, I'm standing here telling you, and I don't lie, so...
Okay.
She's ready to rule. Stay tuned. Asher Robinson and Mandy Salzman were together off and on. When they were on, they bought a car. Now they're totally off. She kept the car, but he wants the money.
I'm trying to make sense of your story, madam.
Okay.
I find it difficult to make sense of
No,
your
I understand
story.
that. I can understand that it's difficult for you to
Understand your story. All right. You have the car now?
Yes.
And your agreement was that whoever kept the car paid off the other person. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Oh. And how long did you use this car together?
For a year.
How long did you use it together?
We bought the car in October of last year.
95.
So you didn't use it very long?
No, we had it we were living together in Humboldt. We had it up there for about a month before we came down to San Diego.
Okay.
A couple months, we used it together.
Okay, and then it's been in your possession, is that right?
Since May, or June, Memorial Day weekend. I've had it.
Sole possession.
Okay. All right, the judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600, giving her credit for the one payment of $100 that I do believe she made.
And the
Thank you.
$200?
No, sir. No, sir. $1,600.
Parties are excused.
Thank you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Dies. Custody of her two daughters goes to the mother's family because their father is in jail. But when the father's family has the girls for a visit, they illegally keep the little girls in Idaho.
Order. All rise. Order.
Yeah, this is number 22 on the calendar in the matter of Young versus Henderson. You may be seated.
This is a really sad case. So I'm prepared to spend some time on this case this morning and roll up my sleeves and see if we can maybe resolve some things for the benefit of two little innocent girls. How old are your great-granddaughters?
They're 6 and 8.
You look very young to be a great-grandmother.
Thank you.
You are the maternal great-grandmother
Yes.
to these two little girls, and you are the paternal grandparents to these two little girls. So let me see if I understand this lawsuit. Your granddaughter died,
Yes, ma'am.
mother of the children.
Yes.
When did she die?
She died July 28th, 1992.
And what was the cause of her death?
They couldn't find out really what caused it, but the death certificate says upper respiratory syndrome.
Your son went to jail.
Right.
For what?
Possession of stolen property.
How long was he in jail?
3 years.
3 years.
So now, Miss Young, why don't you tell me what happened after they took the girls the 27th of June?
When they didn't bring him back by July 27th at 6 p.m., like the court order they had signed, said, I got worried. And the reason I got worried, because they tried that before. That's the reason I got custody of the children.
You were concerned because the 27th of July came and went and you didn't see the girls.
Okay. So I called their home, the phone number that they gave me, and they had disconnected their phone. I became worried. So then I called Diane's work, and she told me...
That's you. You're Diane.
Yes. Yes. And she told me not to be calling there, and if I have any questions, get with your lawyer. That's what she told me. So I did. I called my lawyer, and we all became concerned because of what had happened before, you know. So then I had to get my lawyer involved in this. I had to get the Twin Falls Sheriff's Department involved in this.
Well, so how did you finally get the girls back? I assume they're back with you?
Diane finally brought them back to the Sheriff's Department.
When?
After, that was Thursday, August?
3 days after we arrived.
3 days after we had got there.
Who are you?
I'm Vita Sauer. I am the children's grandmother.
Okay. You traveled down?
Yes.
You traveled out to Idaho.
Mhm.
That's what you're suing for, the expenses,
That's
your
right.
lawyer's expenses and the expenses that you had for going down and getting the girls.
I had to pay all kinds of money. I have all the receipts. And so then when
what happened when you got there?
When we got there, we got in touch with the Sheriff's Department, and it took us a while to get them going on it. They had to call our lawyer in San Bernardino. They had to get an order from the courts in San Bernardino or in Victorville to give him permission to pick up the children and return them to me because I have custody of them, see. Her son was found in the house. They had moved from the house where they were supposed to be.
Did you move?
We did move, yeah.
Did you notify them that you moved?
No.
No, we didn't notify them. We notified our lawyer that we had moved and changed the address.
Well, why didn't you notify Miss Young?
Well, it's my son's attorney actually that gave us the advice to until she had settled things in San Bernardino, to not let them know where we were, to become scarce. So
I find that hard to believe that a lawyer would tell you that. And if a lawyer told you that, that lawyer deserves to be disbarred. If a lawyer told you that. So I find that very, very difficult as a lawyer myself to think that a lawyer would tell you to violate a court order, considering the fact, sir, that we have in this country the Uniform Child Custody Act, which means that every state, as you probably know, must abide by the court orders of another state when it comes to custody. So you're telling me that this lawyer told you, take the children, make yourself scarce, don't notify anybody.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, go ahead.
That lawyer has also contacted we had to get an attorney, a criminal attorney in Idaho, because we were arrested on kidnapping charges.
But he was already involved in what he ultimately went to prison for while the two girls were living with him.
Correct.
A young California mother dies. Custody of her two daughters goes to the mother's family because their father is in jail. But when the father's family has the girls for a visit, they illegally keep the little girls in Idaho.
And so you went down there, and where was your son during all this?
He's working full time. When was
he released from jail?
July 11th
of this year. So as soon as he got out of jail, he decides that he's going to get his kids back.
Get his kids back, right. So he contacted a lawyer in California.
Is this the first time he was in jail?
First time he was in prison, yes.
Well, are you differentiating between prison and jail?
Yes.
Okay.
He was
How many
arrested
times?
as a juvenile before.
How many times?
Once he was arrested.
Go ahead.
And once we took him to juvenile hall.
What did you take him there for?
Incorrigible behavior.
When he was how old?
16.
16.
How old is he now?
27.
And between 16 and 27, how many times was he arrested?
Well, not including this time, I think two other times.
Two other times?
Two other times, right.
For what?
Once was for, he stole a car. I think he was 17.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
You don't remember?
Quite frankly, what the other...
Well, but he was in jail 3 years on this stint, and you know, it's unusual to go to jail for 3 years just for possessing stolen property. What kind of stolen property did he possess? Come on.
Don't know, quite frankly.
Are you telling me you don't know the facts of the case that caused your son to be incarcerated for 3 years, sir? I find that hard to believe.
I don't know what all was the property was. I think there were some... Him and his friend pawned some merchandise, and I think there were some rifles involved in that. I think I don't know what other kind of property it was.
So we have guns, we have possession of stolen property, and was this property stolen during the course of a burglary?
We don't know that either.
I don't know whether he was involved in a burglary or whether he helped his friend. His friend stole property. So I don't know whether he was involved in the burglary or just...
But there was a burglary involved.
There was a burglary involved.
So it sounds to me as if this young man has given you plenty of aggravation from the time he was very young.
Difficult teenager.
And a difficult adult.
Difficult young adult.
He's 27, 28?
27 now.
He's 27 now, so he was 22 or 23 when his wife died?
Right.
You had him taken into custody when he was 16 or 17 for incorrigibility. Between that time and this recent arrest, right, he was arrested 2 or 3 times in between that, right?
Right.
During the time he was in jail, everything was quiet, and the children were with their maternal grandmother.
Everything was not quiet.
Your Honor, the circumstance of the maternal great-grandmother getting the children was that they were living with us, and their father left them with us, asked us to take care of them.
What do you mean he left them with you? Why wasn't he taking care of them?
Because he was in jail.
He was arrested.
He was arrested.
Okay.
He was, the maternal great-grandmother filed a complaint against us to try to get custody of her great-grandchildren. She had tried several times previous to that, even when our son had him, made false claims against him of molestation and other things. He was totally investigated.
You mean there was a time, sir, when the children were just living with your son after the girl's mother died?
After their mother died.
After their mother died. And when was that? What year was that?
It was immediately after their mother died. They were, they had a house together that they were renting, and the girls lived with him. He couldn't handle it, so him and the girls moved in with us.
Is it that time that he was involved with this burglary and possession of stolen property?
No, he moved to Idaho. That's where he became involved in the burglary.
Why did you move to Idaho?
Because we liked Idaho. We preferred it to California.
Did he move first to Idaho?
He was arrested before. Yeah, he moved to Idaho. Then he came back to California.
Had he been arrested? Listen to me. Had he been arrested already, sir, in Idaho when he came back to California? Was he awaiting trial?
No.
And then he went back to Idaho?
He was extradited to Idaho. The crime was in Idaho.
Oh, listen to me.
He brought the children to us, asked us to take
So
care of the
he was
children. He was
already
arrested at our home.
But he was already involved in what he ultimately went to prison for while the two girls were living with him.
Correct.
The Sheriff's Department had to issue an all-points bulletin in 3 states when they did not return the children, and that was issued.
A young California mother dies. Custody of her 2 daughters goes to the mother's family because their father is in jail. But when the father's family has the girls for a visit, they illegally keep the little girls in Idaho.
So while your 2 granddaughters are living with your son, and he's taking care of them, he's involved in either a burglary, possession of property, whatever, stolen property, the whole ball of wax, while he's supposed to be taking care of these 2 girls.
Correct.
Okay. Well, you can understand then why she would feel as if it's not a good idea for him to be around her 2 great-granddaughters.
She didn't know
You can understand that.
Well,
listen to me.
Today.
Listen to me.
Oh, yes, we did.
Listen to me. I assume that she is a smart enough lady to figure out what I figured out in 5 minutes. I'll tell you, after 24 years, this is not a unique story. The names may change, but it's not a unique story. You went down. I'm coming back to our case now for a minute. Tell me what happened when you went down to try to get the girls.
Apparently, these people moved in a hurry and then took the children, I don't know, to some park somewhere.
Your Honor, we were camping.
No, you were hiding.
No.
Yeah, listen to me.
Okay,
you were hiding.
Call it what you want. We were doing what we were advised by an attorney to do.
So listen to me. Whether you were advised by the attorney or not, you were hiding. So that you couldn't be found.
You can call it hiding if you want.
Well, that's what you were doing. You were hiding with the girls. You just acknowledged that you were doing that. You say you were doing it on the advice of your attorney. All right. You finally got the girls back.
We had to wait 3 days.
But ultimately, and it was after, certainly, the time period that they were supposed to return them.
In fact, the Sheriff's Department had to issue an all-points bulletin in 3 states when they did not return the children. And that was issued in Montana, Utah, and Idaho because they had no idea where they were. The sheriff had talked to Diane on the phone, had warned her that the all-points bulletin would be issued, that a warrant for her arrest would be issued if she didn't bring those children in immediately. That's true. Diane chose not to bring them in until sometime the next afternoon whenever they felt like it. By then, the warrants had been issued. They were arrested when they showed up with the children and booked into jail.
Yes. Now,
I talked to the Sheriff's Department as soon as we found out that the paperwork wasn't in, that there was going to be a warrant issued for our arrest. I told the Sheriff's Department that we were over 8 hours away. It was 10 o'clock at night. We were bringing the girls in the morning. And they said, all right, we're going to issue a warrant for your arrest.
No way.
Listen, really isn't urgently important. What we know up until this point is you violated a court order, correct? That you agreed to.
That's right.
You agreed to a court order. You signed off on an agreement to return the girls by the 27th of July.
Correct.
Yes, we did.
Fine, you violated that.
Correct.
That caused the plaintiff to expend money to come to Idaho to retrieve her great-granddaughters.
That's right.
There's no question about that. Why do you
There's no
laugh?
question about part of that.
Well,
Part
what-
of it is we told the sheriff's department, all right, we were bringing the children back.
But
we're
not until-
we're
not
not
on the
going to
27th.
endanger their lives by driving all night.
No, just a second.
That we would be there as soon as we got there. We would take them directly to the sheriff's department. We wouldn't take them home. We would not take them to see their father. We would take them directly to the sheriff's department, which is what we did.
She's already in Idaho.
That's her problem.
No, madam, that's your problem because she didn't get there on the 27th. Listen to me, she didn't get there on the 27th. 27th, she was waiting for the girls to be returned.
On the 27th, we were in Idaho.
I understand that. You should have returned the girls on the 27th as you were directed to do by a court, as you signed an agreement that you would do.
Not being attorneys, we believed what the attorney told us was what's going to happen, that she was going to go to court, she was going to file a petition to get a stay on us returning the children, that we were dropping out of the case because all we were doing is opposing her becoming guardian till Tim was able to take care of his children himself.
Do you live with your mother?
No.
You're a little bit younger. I'm just curious as to why you haven't sought custody of your granddaughters.
I believe that my mother could provide the best environment for them. She's retired and has a lot more time to spend with them. I work full-time and I commute 40 miles a day one way to my job, and I have 3 young children, including a 2.5-year-old and a 5-year-old who has Down syndrome. So I'm a very, very busy person.
You have a full plate. Yeah. Okay. The plaintiff spent at least, minimally, according to these bills, $5,000 to come down, including attorney's fees and airfare and lodging, in order to assure that these children will return to her. And you are responsible for that. There's no question about that. And if your attorney gave you bad advice, I suggest you go in and sue the attorney for the amount that this court is prepared to order, which is $5,000. I certainly think that if the attorney gave you that advice, in addition to suing the attorney, what you ought to do is report the attorney to the Bar Association, because that is the worst legal advice. Kidnapping children is the worst legal advice that any attorney can give. We don't do that in this country anymore.
Judge Judy will return in a moment.
This case really has no winners. Your daughter is dead. She died when she was a teenager, having had 2 children. Your son has not demonstrated a track record, at least as far as this court was concerned, if I were hearing a custody case, that would suggest to me that 2 young children should be entrusted to him. While he had physical custody of these children, he was involved in the commission of a felony. Clear, plain, simple. And that's recent. He's out of jail now for a couple of months. That's not a track record. And he's been involved in this kind of activity. This isn't some aberration. He's been involved in this kind of activity for over a decade. You couldn't even control your own child. You had to go to the courts and say to a stranger at some point, I can't even control him. Please help me. So why do you think that any court would grant him custody of these 2 little girls who have already had the trauma of A, losing their mother, and B, being involved with their father when he was arrested for and committed a felony? These children deserve a degree of stability. And I'm looking at you 2 folks. I don't know very much about them, but I don't think that you've come to terms with the fact that your son should not have physical custody of these 2 girls unless he is totally committed to their welfare. So far, he has not demonstrated that. I'm sure to you, if you look at it dispassionately, he certainly has not demonstrated it to a stranger like me. So where should the children be? They should certainly not be with him, at least for now. Now, the question is, if they were with you, how much contact would they have with their father? I think that they should have contact with their father. And I would ordinarily say that if these two people, who are the grandparents and the father is in the area, and if they were two responsible people, there would be some issue as to whether you would be the better custodial guardians of these children as opposed to their great-grandmother, who is a little bit older, maybe doesn't have as much energy, you know, if things were equal. But they're not equal because you did a very bad thing. You placed the children at risk. You placed the children at risk by violating a court order and secreting them in violation of that order. And I think that the children are better off exactly where they are. So the judgment of this court is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, which is the amount of her request. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
Judge Judy will return in a moment for her friend Tawny's wedding dress. Now, Lori wants to be paid back, but Tawny vows she won't.
Order. All rise. Judge, it's number 60 on the calendar in the matter of Wallace versus McDaniel Marinkovich. Have a seat, please.
Lori.
Yes.
Tawani?
Tawny.
Tawny?
Yes.
You're Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This was your friend.
Mm-hmm.
This was your friend.
Yes.
She was getting married.
Mm-hmm.
According to your complaint, she asked you to go with her to the place where she had seen a dress that she liked. She went there. She didn't have any money. She wanted to have the dress altered. You allowed her to put the dress on your credit card.
Well, yeah. I volunteered to take her to the store. She found the dress, and I made the first payment and the last payment. It hasn't been altered yet, though, as far as I know.
And the dress was $760 some odd.
Yeah.
And this was a loan?
Yes. She agreed that her mother would pay me $50 a week until she got a job, and then she would take over the payments, and within 3 months the dress would have been paid off. Her mom sent me one check. I told her I didn't get a second check. She checked with her mom. Her mom never did send me the second check.
And then this lawsuit has a few pieces to it.
Yes.
Then you say there's $40 that she owes you for some photographs. You took
Right.
Photographs of her children.
Right.
You have 4 children?
Well, 3 children and one is his child.
So you have 3. How old are you?
21.
How old are your children?
1, 2, and 4.
And one of the children is yours?
Mm-hmm.
So that's 4 children altogether.
Mm-hmm.
How old is that child?
I said we have 2 together.
He's 8.
Is that's not your child?
No, this is his child from a previous marriage.
Okay. So you took some photographs together with your children?
No, I took photographs at my last place of employment of her children, her 3 children, and I told her I'd split them, and I paid more than my half of the pictures that I
Because you
wanted.
wanted pictures of her kids?
Yes, and I have those pictures here to prove that I did purchase those.
And you agreed to pay her half, is that right?
Yes. I don't have them. My mother has them in her possession. I looked at them, and my mom took them, and I do not have them
What do
in
you
my
mean she took
possession.
them? She took them or you gave them to her?
She took them. I was living with her and Catalina, and when the pictures arrived with him, she took them. She said she wanted to get some for herself to keep, and I never saw them again. She still has them.
So your mom has the pictures?
Yes.
All right. Then we have a piece of a phone bill that you clearly in your answer, sir, acknowledge that you owe, that you used her cellular phone and ran up a bill of $300 and some odd. How did that come about?
Well, I agreed I couldn't afford the monthly payments for the cellular phone, so I agreed to give him my phone without charging him. He'd pay the deposit, put it in his name. I then called a month later to AirTouch, and they told me he denied to pay the $400 deposit. Next thing I know, I get a $366 cellular phone bill, which I took into account the money that I used.
And how much did you use?
$366 was the total bill. He agreed to $313, so about $50 was mine.
You went over the bill with her, correct?
With her boyfriend, I did, yeah.
Your boyfriend?
Yes.
And you agreed that you made $313 worth of calls. So why are we here? I don't understand why we're here.
Me neither.
You owe, just a second, you owe her for the dress, you owe her for half the pictures, which either you have or your mother has, and you say that, well, she didn't contact you for 2 months, according to your answer, so you thought this loan was forgiven.
And
So
her
I'm gonna
boyfriend
ask,
told me her dad was paying for the bill, too.
what difference
So
does that
I
make? It's not
assumed
your
it-
dad.
I know, but I just assumed it was forgotten about.
Just a second. Well,
I want you to think again. It's not forgotten about. So why aren't
Also,
you
I
paying
agreed
her?
to pay for the bill. I just don't have the money for it right now. That's all.
Well,
And
why
she
don't you
hasn't
use the
spoke
phone?
to me for 2 months.
What? Why not?
We're all fighting right now.
Why?
Can
I work with the defendant. We both work for the same company, and I've been trying to make arrangements with him for about 4 months now.
That's wrong. That's
also,
so
I
wrong.
also want to
If he
tell
can't
one
pull out a
thing-
$20 bill to give me, then there's something wrong.
He hasn't spoken to me for 2 months, and that is a lie. This 4
Well,
months
let me
thing.
ask you this question. Did anything precipitate this not talking, or was it just all over
Well,
money?
me and him had words in the store that we work at.
About what?
I don't want to get into that.
Fine, but did those words have anything to do with this debt?
No, it's just the fact that he quit talking to me.
But my question to you is, Mr. McDaniel.
I'm not refusing to pay it. When I have the money to pay it, I'll pay it.
Well,
I
how
have
can you
nothing
use
against that.
something? How can you use something
I didn't
when you
realize
don't
the
have
bill
the...
was going to be that high.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Yes.
I went to ask for the wedding dress in my possession until they have fully paid it off. I agreed to give them the dress back at the end of the time that they made the full payments. Okay? I then said, now, like I said, it would be paid off in 3 months. Okay? So I wasn't going to charge them interest. There is interest added on there, $75. Because of the fact that it had been on 6 months. They are correct. My father did pay it. I got a consolidated loan from my father. My dad should not have to pay their debts to me. And she also made a comment to me when I discussed it with her that she is not rich and that I'll get my money when they have it. Well, I'm not rich either. I lost my job when this incident happened, and to me it was totally wrong. They used my friendship. I have proof right here of our friendship. They said things behind my back.
How do we use your
Just a
friendship?
second.
I don't understand that.
I would suggest that you not say anything. I want to know why you didn't pay her for the wedding dress.
Okay, the wedding dress was between her and my mother. Okay, her and
No,
I
Judge,
went to get the wedding
your
dress.
mother didn't go with you to the store.
No, but her and I went to the store. Okay, she volunteered to put on her
How
credit
did she
card.
volunteer?
She
Now,
said,
tell me. I want you to tell me. You went into the store. Tell me what you said. Tell me what she said.
I saw a dress that I wanted. Before she wasn't with me at this time. I was with his mother. I took her back to see the dress with me, and they needed to send it away for it to be altered to fit my size. That's when she was with me.
And
she
so
said,
what did you
I will
say?
go ahead and put on my credit card.
Just a second.
Okay.
You must have said, I don't have any money with me.
She knew I didn't have any money with me. I wasn't going down there to purchase the dress just to...
Did you say to her, I don't have any money?
I don't remember if I actually said that to her, but she knew that I didn't have money.
Can I say
she
something?
She offered to put it on her credit card, and I said, it's up to you. And then when we went back to get the second time when it came back in, she also said the same thing. My mom found out that she was paying for this, so my mom said, I will pay her back $50 every 2 weeks when I get paid.
How did you expect to buy this wedding dress if you had no money? Did you expect her to buy it?
No, my mother was doing it as a gift for me.
She
And Lori,
never had any contact with your mother before she went to the store?
It was a verbal agreement between
Her
those
and my
three.
mother
There also was a
did
verbal
agree.
agreement that she would take over the payments as soon as she gets a job. It's
That
not
is
my
not
fault that
true.
she has 3 kids and she's stuck at home and doesn't have a vehicle to get to and from work.
We
She
don't
did
need to
stay
get
Why
into
did you,
that.
just a second, why did you need this wedding dress anyway?
Because we had set a date to get married on July 20th, 1996.
Is it a very elaborate wedding dress?
Yes.
It's a very, it is?
Well, it's pretty...
Well, it's pretty elaborate.
Do you want me to...
That's a pretty elaborate wedding dress.
Yeah.
Good.
And
now,
sorry.
How many people are you having at this wedding?
I don't know exactly.
Give me an approximate figure.
About 200 or...
And who's paying for this wedding for 200 people?
That's why we haven't gotten married yet.
Who's paying for the wedding? You said you set a date.
I'm saying we can't afford it. That's why we have not gotten married yet. Because we have to do it our own now because I'm no longer speaking with my mother because her and I had a falling out in Catalina. We are not speaking.
So now you have a wedding dress and no date.
Will wedding bells ring? Will Tawny pay Lori for the dress? Stay tuned.
You two people better grow up because you seem to have a problem, and your problem is, did you ever hear the word OPM, the letters OPM? That stands for other people's money. You seem to have a propensity for spending other people's money.
Lori Wallace paid for her friend Tawny's wedding dress. Now, Lori wants to be paid back, but Tawny vows she won't.
Who was supposed to pay for the wedding?
My mom was going to help, and our family was going to help.
You two people better grow up because you seem to have a problem, and your problem is, did you ever hear the word OPM, the letters OPM? That stands for other people's money. You seem to have a propensity for spending other people's money.
I don't
There's
feel
no-
I spent her money on the
Well,
wedding dress.
Of
It was
course you
between
spent her
and my
money on her.
mother.
Of course you spent her money on
Not
your wedding
I
dress. She
don't-
wasn't getting
no.
married. Your mother wasn't getting married. You went to the store with her. She was a good friend, a good
Doesn't
enough
matter that
friend.
she gave me the offer.
Hey, listen, you two people probably deserve each other. The judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount requested, which is $1,140. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
Obviously, if they're not making payments to me, I can't trust them to have the dress.
Don't give me your looks, Lori.
She's going to live off of welfare and his paychecks.
I know.
I'm glad that she gets to keep the dress. They do deserve
And
each
I'm
other,
glad
like
you
Judge
won.
Judy
I'm
said.
glad you won. I really am.
And now, the next case.
Parties on Warden versus Castleberry. Step forward, please.
When Susan Warden's best friend, Elaine Castleberry, needed cash to get married, she loaned it. Susan says Elaine won't pay her back. Elaine says she did pay her back.
You two nice ladies used to be friends.
Yes.
How long were you friends?
About 6 years.
Yeah, about 6.
Then you were going to Alabama to get married.
Well, we were going on vacation to Pennsylvania and Alabama, and we got married in Pennsylvania.
And according to the complaint, you lent the defendant $300.
Yes.
And she came back, didn't pay you back right away. And then there was a problem with your two husbands.
Yeah.
One borrowed $20 from the other, came in asking for the $20.
That's neither here
You got
nor
angry.
there, though.
You got angry, said, what about my $300? And the fight was on.
I guess so. I got angry over the $20, just the nerve of him coming over for $20 when she owed me $300. He got his
But
money
he
that
didn't
day.
know it. It was between you and me.
I know, but you
Yeah,
still
well,
haven't paid
don't
me
yell at
back,
each other.
Elaine.
Listen to me.
And
Don't yell at each other. Talk to me. It's not a lot of money. It's $300. We'll get to the bottom of it. The sadder part of it is that you're not friends anymore. You lent her the $300, then she and her new husband came home, correct?
Yes.
And at some point, your husband went over to get $20 from her husband that he had borrowed.
Right.
And what happened when he came over?
He was just, he was angry about the $20 because my husband takes forever to pay him back, but that's between
Just a
those
second.
two.
So what happened? He came over and he said,
came
"Where's
over
what?"
and he was complaining about the $20 and everything else, and kind of on a rampage, and just angry words and everything else. And I mean, I shut my mouth, and then because her and I are friends, and then I just let loose because I was angry.
So you let loose and said
And
what?
I just said, your, excuse me, wife, I was supposed to spell that out, but wife owes me, but I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say your wife, and then the reverse. Because her and I were friends, I did not mean that, but I was angry. And so I gave him the $20, and we haven't spoke ever since. We were neighbors.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Yeah.
We were friends for a long time.
So you don't pay me my money. Now you're sitting here lying to me. I'm lying, and you don't pay me my money.
You're
How can
yelling
we be
at each
friends? You're
other.
lying.
When Susan Warden's best friend, Elaine Castleberry, needed cash to get married, she loaned it. Susan says Elaine won't pay her back. Elaine says she did pay her back.
Did you pay her back the $300? Did you?
Yes.
When?
I paid her partial in November, and then the other part in January.
Oh, you're gonna go to hell for lying. You know that's a damn
Ms.
lie.
Castleberry.
You did not pay me anything.
You paid her any part of it after you had this argument?
Yes.
You did?
Well, we never had an argument.
Well, when you stopped talking to
Right.
each other.
Okay.
You paid her after you stopped talking
Yes.
to each other? Well, tell me about how you paid her.
How I paid her?
Yeah, tell me about exactly under what circumstances you paid her.
I put money in an envelope and gave it to her
Personally?
boyfriend. No,
Oh,
gave
my-
it to her boyfriend.
That's not him.
To give it to her.
That's not responsible. It's me you borrowed the money from, not him. Me.
Why?
Well, we weren't talking or anything. You
listen
were
to me.
ignoring
You
me.
You
ladies,
give it to me.
listen. You ladies are not paying attention to me. I said you have to talk to me, not to each other. If you want to talk to each other, that would be fine, but you do that outside.
Okay.
It's just
sorry.
an
In here
outrageous
you talk.
lie.
In here you
I
talk
can't
to me.
believe this.
Why would you give her cash instead of a check if you weren't talking to her?
I never thought anything about it. I never thought anything about it, not at all.
How long did it take you to pay back this money?
I paid, well, I borrowed it in September, beginning of September, and I paid $150 in November. The end
Did she
of
give you
November.
any money in November?
I haven't received a dime from her. And after that's why I waited till over a year to file in small claims court. I haven't received nothing at all. And I don't lie. I didn't think she did either, but I don't.
Also, this was a loan between her and I. My husband knew nothing about it.
That's why she's mad, because I told him.
And that's why I gave cash mostly also.
Did you?
She didn't give
Let
me
me
any
ask you
money.
this question. Well, after
wouldn't be
the
here.
argument, and you weren't talking to each other, certainly your husband knew about it. So then you
yeah,
could have given her a
definitely.
check.
I could have the
Yes,
last
sure.
payment I gave her, yes.
Sure, you could have given her a check. Your husbands, seems to me this problem started over them. So are they talking to each other now?
Oh, yeah, they talk.
No, I've
They
moved.
have been
I've moved
talking.
since. I've moved since. I don't know
but
what all
before
this...
she moved, they've
okay,
been
and it's not my
talking.
husband, first of all. He's my
No,
boyfriend. And
Are you still together?
no. No.
Why?
Oh, God, that's a long story.
Well, I want to know if it had anything to do with honesty.
Who, Woody? I mean, my...
The boyfriend, the boy
No,
that you
I
lived
just
with.
got sick of the same old...
What?
Just not reliable, not working, me supporting everybody. I got tired of it and I threw him out.
Well, then how do you know that he didn't take this money that you gave with an
Because
envelope?
I know she did not give the money. I know she did not, because she does not have the money, and you know how Woody is. Why would you give him money? Because this is an excuse for you right now to use it. She
No,
would
don't-
give the
you
money
talk-
to me. If she can write me letters and do everything else, the money would go. She
I was
borrowed the
trying
money
to be
directly from my
friends.
hands. Why
I
can't
wanted
she
to
give
be
it back to my
friends.
hand?
That's a reasonable question.
Yeah.
We were friends for a long time.
So you don't pay me
understand
my
that.
money. Now you're sitting here lying to me. I'm lying and you don't pay me my money.
You're
How can
yelling
we
at
be
each
friends?
other.
You're lying.
She's ready to rule. Stay tuned.
She has a point.
I didn't even hear what she said. I'm sorry.
Well, generally her point is you have to put the money in her hand, not in the hand of a third person, because then you're never sure whether she's going to get it, especially if it's cash. She tossed out this boyfriend because he was not
I didn't know that.
responsible. Yeah, I know that, but you have an obligation if you owe her money to see to it that she personally gets the money. And clearly, that wasn't done if you gave the money to a third person. You have no information that he actually turned this money over to her. I'm not sure whether you actually gave him the money anyway, but even if you did, it would be like giving it to a stranger and saying, would you give this to Miss Warden? You can't do that, and you know that you can't do that. It's just too bad that you used to be friends, and you're not friends because you got a little hot under the collar.
Okay, I got a little hot on it. Look, she's lying. She's sitting here. I'm glad I'm not a friend with her because she's a liar.
Listen to me. I want you to just think
I
about
don't
it.
like liars.
Just think for a second. The two guys got into an argument. You got hot. It really had nothing to do with her. You got irritated because you didn't like what he was doing in your house, and you took it out on her. By saying bad things about her, by calling her a name.
It was one sentence, and I did not mean that
Well,
sentence.
that was-
told her. I wrote her a letter and said I did not mean that sentence. I was angry, and the words got reversed. I did not mean that.
But listen to me. You're
I did not
excitable,
get
but
that.
you're excitable, but you said it. And not only did you say it, but in this argument that these two childish boys were probably having, you had no right to bring her into it because she had not told her husband that you would
That's
lend
why she
her
got
the money.
angry, because
Of course.
he didn't know, and that's why, because she got in trouble from him, I believe.
Well, that's
or
true,
not,
but that,
for borrowing money.
But that was something that you created over a situation that really had nothing to do with her. It was the two guys.
Yeah,
so let me tell
they
you.
should have went outside then, I guess.
Absolutely right. So I want you to
Outside
at
my
least
house,
leave here.
yeah.
You're going to leave here with your $300 because
Thank
I'm going to
you.
award you that.
Thank you.
But I want you to at least understand that you caused this problem because you got hot under the collar in a situation that had nothing to do with her, but you brought your friend into it. And you shouldn't have.
I guess, but okay, yes, I did.
That's
I'm
all.
just- I'm not
Judgment for
gonna
the plaintiff
explain
in the amount of $300.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
Judge Judy will return in a moment. When Georgie Hurd moved in with Aaron Colley's ex-husband, it resulted in charges of a smashed car window, a threat with an ice pick, and a daughter who can't see her father.
Order, all rise.
Yeah, this is number 40 on the calendar in the matter of Hurd versus Colley. You may be seated.
The complaint in this case talks about a broken window that you say the defendant broke on your car, back windshield. But it's really a lot more than that.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yes, it is.
You have a countersuit for harassment for $2,000. You want $300 for fixing your car window. Miss Coley.
Yes.
This young lady is now the girlfriend of your former husband.
Yes.
And reading between the lines in your answer, you're pretty angry with her.
Yes, I am.
Tell me why.
I was married to Richard for 15 years. During the course of my marriage, Mrs. Hurd has had several affairs with my husband. We tried to reconcile our marriage. She constantly interfered.
How did she interfere?
She has verbally abused my daughter. She's verbally abused me. I had to go into professional counseling because I was very depressed.
Well, how did she interfere?
She interfered by...
With the reconciliation.
She interfered by not letting me and Richard work out our differences. She stayed with him, and he came to me several times and tried to come back to our marriage, but by her being there and interfering and not giving him a chance...
You mean by her being accessible to him?
Right, to him. She did not give us a chance to work out our marriage. And so, therefore, we ended up in a divorce.
Did you break her car window?
Okay, the car in question is not her car.
Did you break the car window?
I broke the car window.
She in the car at the time?
She was standing, not in the car, but by the car.
Why did you break the car window?
Me and Mrs. Hurd have had several arguments. She has harassed me constantly, during the marriage.
Does she seek you out, or do you seek her out when she harasses
we
you?
have seeked each other out. And so, out of fear, I broke the window out. She also had an ice pick. She's also pulled guns on me twice.
Did you pull a gun on her?
No, Your Honor. I only own one.
Did you have an ice pick in your hand?
No, ma'am. I couldn't even get out of the car because of her son. If I had an ice pick, I couldn't have used it because he was blocking my entrance from the door to get out.
These are your two kids?
Yes.
What's your name?
Dorian.
And yours?
Shasta.
You angry with your dad?
Yes.
You know what? Come on up here. Up here.
Around. Watch your step.
Shasta, where do you live?
I'm in Inglewood on 104th.
How old are you?
I'm 15.
How do you do in school?
Not so good.
Is that just recently?
Yeah, I have failed the 9th grade.
Were you doing okay before your parents divorced?
Yes.
So this is really hard on you?
Yes.
Would you like it to be easier on you?
Yes.
You think your mom could make it easier on you?
Well, I wanted my dad to come back home. It'll make it more easier for me.
I know, but I don't know if even I can arrange that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you would like to see your dad. Your dad was around all the time. Would you like to see your dad, Shasta, without his girlfriend?
Yes.
You're 15, he'll take you to dinner, take you out for an afternoon, take you shopping.
Yeah.
You wouldn't mind that?
No.
You think your mom would mind that?
No.
Okay, anything else you want to tell me?
No.
Let's see if I can do something about it, okay?
Okay.
Why don't you go sit down over there? Sit down.
Watch your step.
I'll deal with this $300 window in a minute. You were probably just angry.
Yes, I was, Your Honor. I was provoked also by Mrs. Hurd.
Well, whether you're provoked or not, that you don't retaliate by taking something and breaking a window unless you're really angry. You look like a lovely lady.
I am.
And you have a lovely daughter. It appears that this has been very hard on her. She doesn't do well in school now, and she looks as if she's at that threshold of young womanhood and in her education where it's really important. You know, failing the 9th grade is not a good thing because that's the start of high school. And she probably wants to go on to college, right?
Yes.
So you're going to have to love your daughter more than you hate your ex-husband's girlfriend or even him.
Yes, Your Honor.
And make it easy for her to see him. You know, not so that she feels guilty.
She kept having affairs with him.
Did she see me doing it, Yana?
Charges of a smashed car window, an ice pick, and a daughter who can't see her dad.
I'm going to be in your face for a minute.
Okay.
Do you have any children?
No, ma'am. I have one child. She's deceased.
You think that Richard wants to see his daughter?
I know he wants to see her, but I'm not holding him from seeing her. Because with her, she used to call my house. I used to let her call, okay? But when she started calling me abusive name, talking about my mom when she's deceased, how she's going to kill me and what all she's going to do to me. So I spoke with her and I said, well, hey, look, why don't y'all do it like this? Drop the kid off at the police station. And that way he can pick her up and you can go back and pick her up when they finish. Oh, no. Gotta come through me. It's always gotta be over. He was trying to go to her house to see the kid. But every time he goes, she runs out to the car, handing him papers, telling him, sign this, do this. I can't make him talk to her, Yana. Okay. But I do think the kid needs to see her father.
Okay, Miss Hurd, first of all, the kid has a name.
Shasta. The Shasta.
Okay. And we always have to call children by their name. This is LaShasta.
Sorry, Yana.
And then we don't exchange children at police stations because that's just not the right thing to do. You try to find some other way, especially with a 15-year-old who travels, right, LaShasta?
Yes.
You take a bus? You ever take a
Yes.
bus? He doesn't even have to come to her house. And he shouldn't, because it'll be unpleasant. The visitation with Richard should be pleasant for her.
That's right.
I don't really care if it's pleasant for Richard or not, but it's got to be pleasant for her. And if he comes to your house, it won't. So you have to. Now, where's Richard? I mean, he's
not here.
He's not here. Well,
good. We can't even talk about it because he can't defend himself.
Yeah, but you have his ear. And I'm sure that you're going to get home and discuss what happened here today.
She will.
Hmm?
I said she will.
I'm sure she will.
That's my home.
I'm sure she will. Listen to me. Your boyfriend had a life before you.
Mm-hmm.
He may want to close this chapter in his life with his former
already
wife.
have.
With his former wife. That's very sad for her. You can understand that.
Nah.
Well, if you can't understand it, then you're not a very nice person.
I can understand it,
Then
but
just say, is not understanding it. You
but
can
she don't
understand
have to take it out on me, Yana.
That's true. I mean, the person, if she wants to be angry with, she should be angry with her husband, her ex-husband, because he was the one who was unfaithful.
That's right.
The fact that she was there for him, if it wasn't her, and if he wanted to be unfaithful, he would have been unfaithful with somebody.
Yes.
So it just so happens that it's her, and she wasn't there to help. You wanted to say something.
Okay. She said that she has allowed me to call her house. I called her house not to speak to her, to speak to Richard concerning our daughter. She's on the phone all the time, instigating, listening to our conversation, would not let me and Richard or Shasta have a relationship with Richard. At the divorce, he agreed to come to the house to visit Shasta because Shasta told him that she did not want to be around him and Mrs. Hurd. That's in the divorce. Okay,
but you just heard heard what Shasta said.
I allowed Richard and Shasta to leave the house. I did not make him stick to his agreement. You know, he can take her anywhere he wants to take her. But what happened is that he started spending 30 minutes with her, 1 hour with her, you know, and he was only coming on Saturdays. That's what Richard, you know, what's up? He tells me that Well, not he did not tell me, but Mrs. Hurd told me in one of the conversations, she told Richard to only stay and spend 2 hours with his daughter. Okay, she has a lot of influence over Richard.
Well, I'm
and you're
she
right,
has a lot
Ioana.
of. Go ahead.
If it wasn't her, it would have been someone else. But the fact remains is that during my 15-year marriage, she kept having affairs with him.
Did she see me doing it, Yana?
Well, listen. The proof of the pudding is in the tasting, right? We're here.
That's right.
We're here today. That's Richard's fault.
Right.
And if he was going to have affairs during the 15 years of your marriage, if it wasn't this lady, it would have been somebody else.
That's true, Your Honor.
She's ready to rule. Charges of a smashed car window, an ice pick, and a daughter who can't see her dad.
Really, I'm not concerned about you. And quite frankly, although I'm sympathetic, I'm not concerned about you. I'm concerned about the innocent. That's LaShasta.
That's right.
So I want you to deliver this message to Richard.
Watch.
His daughter would like to see him. His daughter would like to see him without you. And so you have to make certain sacrifices. This is my message to you. And that is, she's a teenager. She'd like to spend some time with her father. She's still angry with you. She has a right to be angry with you.
Yes.
So you're going to have Richard spend some time with his daughter and make him feel comfortable about it, not like he's taking any time away from you, whether that's Saturday afternoon, whether it's twice a month, whatever it is. You have to encourage him to spend some single lone time with his child. You don't have to answer. Just do it.
Okay.
Just do it. And you have to feel comfortable about calling your father's house.
I don't call his house.
Well, you should. I mean, if it's difficult for your father to call your house because he doesn't want to get your mom on the phone who is angry with him, you call your dad's house to make the arrangements when to see him. Now, you have to put a period to this anger because it's not healthy for you and it's clearly not healthy for your children.
You're right, Your Honor.
Good.
I have moved on. I'm still in counseling, and I'm doing very well.
Okay. So you're going to pay for a car window. That's $300. That's the way I'm resolving this case, but I expect you to deliver those messages to Richard. This is a very nice young lady. She deserves not to be a casualty of what adults did. That's it. $300 for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
Dad can see his kid anytime he wants. I'm glad it's over. It should have been over 2 years ago. Don't take the law into your own hand. Take him to court.
Things I would like to say, I can't say it on TV, but it's over with, and I'm glad.
And now, the next case.
Parties on Boone versus Aguilar. Step forward, please.
Tina Aguilar says her ex-boyfriend bought her a $1,700 vacuum as a gift. Brandon Boone says he's not going to be taken for a sucker.
This is number 64 on the calendar in the matter of Boone versus Aguilar.
What do you do with a $1,700 vacuum cleaner?
You use it.
Before we get into this case, I want you to tell me what a $1,700 vacuum cleaner can do.
It's got up to 1 million attachments. It can do carpets. It can do upholstery, curtains. It can blow up balloons. It can blow out weeds. This thing does everything. Clean your car. It turns into this little dinky little vacuum. It's worth the money.
What do you do for a living?
Now, I'm a payroll clerk. Back then, I wasn't working.
The reason I ask you that question, Miss Aguilar, is when you bought this $1,700 vacuum cleaner that he co-signed, and we'll get to this case in a second, you just told me you weren't working. I've been working all of my adult life. That's a couple of years. I can guarantee you that in my worst year in the last 25 years, I've made a lot more money than you did.
Mm-hmm.
I never bought a $1,700 vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, I admit it probably was crazy, but I like the best. I want the best.
Well, you wanted the best. Now we get to the case. So you and Mr. Boone were a social item for a while.
Yes.
And is that right, Mr. Boone?
Yes, that's right.
For a short while.
Short while.
And then you just became friends.
Correct.
She wanted a Kirby.
Correct.
But she couldn't get a loan or something for this Kirby, so she asked you to...
To co-sign for her.
And what did you do?
Well, at first, I approached her with the question of how she was going to pay for it, and she assured me that she could make the payments and that the payments wouldn't be that much a month. I still have my doubts. She asked me a couple times about it, and finally I decided that I would go ahead and help her out and co-sign for her. Well, when I went over, I co-signed, and next thing I know, I ended up being the primary on the account, which I don't know how that's possible when I was supposed to be just a co-signer.
So you were the primary, and then how did you find out that the payments weren't made?
After she received the vacuum for a couple months, I received a letter in the mail from the place saying that the payments were late. So I approached her about it, and when I approached her, she told me that they were wrong and that she had been making payments and that she would take care of it.
That's not true.
So after a while, the letters had stopped. So I figured she had been making the payments.
You say in your complaint that you were turned down for credit by TRW.
Yes, that's correct, too.
Car.
I applied to get a loan. My dad was co-signing for me to get a loan to get a car, and I was turned down from them for the vacuum bin on my TRW, which is this. Western
One
Funding.
thing's not going to make it on your
Western
TRW.
Funding is a charge-off of 16-something on there. Okay.
And you didn't know about this for the 2.5-year period?
I didn't know about it at all. When I first found out was when I received a letter from a collection agency with her address and my name on there.
All right, Miss Aguilar, let me hear your side of the story.
Okay, up to the part where he said, yeah, we dated for a year. And at the time, I wasn't working because I had just lost my job where I was working for like almost 10 years. Well, he used to buy me gifts all the time, okay?
That's not
So
true.
him getting something like this, you know, for me and helping me out, to me, I didn't think anything of it. The years went on. I mean,
you made payments on it.
No, I didn't.
You
Not
never
to begin with.
just a second. Are you telling me you never made one payment on this vacuum?
No, I'm going to get to that. I was going to get to that. I
Well,
had made
no, get to it
payments.
right now. In my time, you made payments on this vacuum cleaner.
I told him, yeah, I was going to help make payments.
Just, you made payments on the vacuum cleaner.
Yes, I did.
All right.
Judge Judy will return in a moment.
How,
When
Brandon?
did you stop making the payments?
I would just make them sporadically because I didn't have anything, and I would just send a check.
Oh, please. You know, stop making excuses, Miss Aguilar.
No, this is true.
Yo,
I used to ask Brandon, okay, if you want me, hey, you want me to pay for it, that's fine. Then you know what? Then you
That's
call the
not
company
true.
because they would not give me any information because
You
I'm
didn't
not on
need
there.
information. You
No.
knew where to make payments.
No,
You
I
knew-
would just mail in a check, but he would
So-
say he got letters, and there was no letters.
Just a second. You would mail in payments. So why didn't you mail in payments regularly?
Because it was basically as a gift. I was doing it for him because I had a better job than him, and he wasn't really working.
Well, you were doing what for
He
him?
was doing this because he was jealous. He used to come into my house all the time. We lived next door to each
That's
other.
not true.
He would walk on in my house, you know, making flirtatious passes to me. And I used to tell him, Brandon, you've got a girlfriend next door. I'm going to go tell her. That's what all this
Miss
boils down
Aguilar.
to is a year ago.
Miss
when all of a sudden-
Aguilar, you asked him to co-sign this loan for you?
To help me purchase it.
You asked him to co-sign a loan for you.
I'd asked to help purchase it, not co-sign.
Miss Aguilar, you're a liar. The
No,
judgment in this
I
case
have
is
a
for the
witness
plaintiff
right
in the amount
here.
of $1,270. That's all.
Party's not excused. Step out,
Pathetic.
please.
That's pathetic.
This way.
Judge Judy will return.
Versus Horowitz. Step forward, please. All parties are on Lloyd versus Horowitz. Step forward.
Carl Lloyd kept his late wife's jewelry in a safe deposit box. He gave a key to his daughter, Carolyn Horowitz. She borrowed the jewelry, but didn't return it. Now, her dad is suing for the family jewels.
Order. Order. All right. This is case number 50 on the calendar in the matter of Lloyd versus Horowitz. You may be seated.
Well, I read over these papers, and let me tell you, some of the things that I read in here ring a little close to my home, and I think the homes of a lot of other people who may be watching this case. Your wife of 50 years died.
49 years and 11 months.
And this is your daughter.
Yes.
And when your wife died, you took some, according to your complaint, some of her diamond jewelry. You had it appraised for about $2,000. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Here's the.
I believe you.
Here's the appraisal slip.
I believe you. And then you took this diamond jewelry that was your wife's and you put it in a vault.
Safe deposit box, ma'am.
And you gave your daughter the key.
Yes.
Just in case something happened to you.
Seeing as how she was the only living relative.
Okay. And unbeknownst to you, your daughter at some point went into the safety deposit box and removed the jewelry.
Right.
Without your permission.
Right.
So you're suing her for the $2,000.
Right. Okay. Or return of the jewelry.
Now, Ms. Horowitz.
Yes.
I read your answer, and you don't deny that you went in and took the jewelry. Correct? You said you took it because you wanted to wear the jewelry to a very special function.
That's correct. It was a Christmas program that I was singing in, and I don't remember the exact year. I just remember wanting to wear the jewelry because I knew my mother couldn't be there, and it made me feel it made me feel like she would be close to me.
Ms. Horowitz, I want you to be really honest with me.
Okay.
Had your dad met his new wife at the time you took out the jewelry?
He knew her before my mom passed away.
But they started dating, according to your complaint, within 3 weeks of your mother's death.
Not his current wife. He just started dating, and then he proposed to her 3 months after my mom passed away.
That bothered you?
A lot, yeah.
Okay. Was there any sense, or did you feel that perhaps this jewelry that was your mom's would wind up with his new wife?
No, I never gave that a thought.
You sure?
Mm-hmm. Because of something that happened, because of something that she said to him before they got married.
Which was?
Well, he wanted to give her a wedding ring that belonged to my grandmother, and Addie said, no, that belongs to Carolyn.
Why do you think that your dad didn't... Well, let me ask him that question. Mr. Lloyd, this is your only living relative, you said.
Yes. I have a sister who is in the courtroom now, too.
But this clearly would be the person who would get all of your wife's jewelry. You weren't going to wear the jewelry, correct? No. When your wife died, why didn't you give the jewelry to your daughter right away?
My wife left it to me.
Well, I understand that. She left you probably all of her property, didn't she?
Pardon?
Didn't she leave you all of her property?
Yes.
And the jewelry was just part of that property?
Yes.
My question is more of an emotional question, Mr. Lloyd, rather than a dollars and cents question. This was jewelry that your wife wore, and this is your only daughter.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you want to see her wearing that jewelry?
Your Honor, since the time she was in high school, she's been a nothing but a lying bitch. And now she has made it a lying, thieving bitch.
Those are pretty harsh words, Mr. Lloyd.
I know they are.
Well,
and they're the truth.
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes.
Children come into this world as blank slates, sir.
That's right.
They grow up to be what we as parents make them, sir. And I have absolutely no idea as to whether any of what you said is true. But if any of it is true, you and your wife made her. So you have to have some responsibility for that.
The case of a father suing his own daughter and breaking her heart continues in a moment.
She wouldn't come to this meeting because My daughter, when we were married, says, there goes my inheritance.
That's a lie.
That's not a lie.
That's a lie.
You're a lying bitch. That's what you are.
Carl Lloyd is suing his daughter, Carolyn Horowitz, over his late wife's jewelry.
I still don't understand why, if you had the feeling that this was your only living relative, why you wouldn't say to your daughter with a warm hand, you know what, did you ever hear the expression, you're supposed to give with a warm hand? You know what that means?
No.
Well, it means that when you give to children, the hand that you are giving it to should be warm. They shouldn't have to wait until the hand is cold and dead before they get something from you. It's nice to give it, if you can give it with a warm hand while you're still alive, so that you could look at the face of the child and say, here's something I want you to have. Did your daughter know before this moment how you felt about her?
Pardon?
You think your daughter knew before this moment how you felt about her?
Yes, she did.
Is that true? Why do you think that is, Mrs. Horowitz?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I've thought about it and thought about it, and the only thing I can figure out is that I've never been able to live up to his expectations.
Is that true, Mr. Lloyd?
No.
You married?
Yes.
How long?
25 years.
Same guy? That's you.
That's me.
You have children?
Yes. My daughter's sitting in there in the front row now in tears because of what her grandfather said about her wedding.
What did he say about her wedding?
Tell her. Go ahead and tell her.
What did you say about Lori's wedding?
I said it was a fake, a phony.
Mr. Lloyd,
And
Mr. Lloyd, are you still married to your present wife?
yes, ma'am. And very happily married to her.
You know,
She wouldn't come to this meeting because my daughter, when we were married, says, there goes my inheritance. There goes my inheritance.
That's a lie.
That's not a lie.
That's a lie.
You're a lying bitch. That's what
a lie.
you are.
Listen, Miss Horowitz, listen to me.
That's not correct.
Listen to me. I don't know, quite frankly, whether your dad was like this all the time.
It's getting worse as he gets older.
I have a sense that that has to be true. Do you know, you took this jewelry and you knew that you weren't supposed to take it.
That's not correct, because he gave me a key to the safe deposit box. I assume permission was implied.
Well, that's not really true. Just because you have permission to go into a box doesn't mean that you have ownership of or any ownership rights to any of the items contained in the box. And I don't think you can make that giant leap from the fact that you have permission to go into the box to take the jewelry from the box.
I didn't even think of permission. All I was thinking of was I wanted to wear the jewelry because my mom couldn't be at this Christmas program, and it just gave me a sense of closeness of having her there with me.
Your Honor, I can't hear what she's saying.
What she's saying is she just wanted to be closer to her mom by wearing these pieces of jewelry that were her mother's. That's what she said. Mrs. Horowitz.
Yes.
You had no right to take the jewelry from the box. Now, according to your answer, you don't know where the jewelry is now. I'm not going to ask you whether that's true or not. I assume you still have a sentimental attachment for it.
Yes.
Right? Did you get along with your mom?
Yes.
What was the cause of her death?
Cardiac arrest, secondary to septic shock. She was in the hospital for anemia and developed, picked up a staph infection and went into septic shock and subsequent cardiac arrest.
But you were close to her all of the years that she was alive?
I would say so, yes.
Judge Judy is ready to rule in a moment. Carl Lloyd is suing his daughter, Carolyn Horowitz, over his late wife's jewelry.
I assume you want the jewelry. Is that right?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd, and you want your $2,000 that the jewelry was appraised for. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd, you are too old, sir, for me to give any speeches to. You're even older than I am. But I'm going to tell you, you have a daughter, you have a grandchild, and sometimes people get softer as they get older. Softer. I don't think that's happening to you, Mr. Lloyd. I think you're getting tougher as you're getting older. I would try, if I were you, sir, to lighten up on your daughter. She is who she is. She's a product of whatever you and your wife did. She looks like a perfectly nice lady. She has a nice husband. She's been responsible, married to him for 25 years. They have a daughter who's getting married. You might even be a great grandfather in your time. That would be a wonderful thing. Well,
I've got 2 great-grandchildren.
That's
living in Maryland.
That's lovely. You may have another or another couple. That's very nice, especially if they were living closer by so that you could see them. It's a very terrible thing to cut yourself off from your family over money. You brought this lawsuit. You are entitled to either your jewelry back, which your wife did leave to you. I don't think there's any dispute with regard to that, or you're entitled to the money, Mr. Lloyd. You want the money from your daughter?
Or
do you want the money from your daughter?
The money or the jewelry.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. I'm sorry, Miss Horowitz. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out, please. Back to your right.
I don't really know what to say. I'm shocked. You know, I don't understand. I don't even know what to say.
She stole my jewelry. It was mine. And nobody steals from me without paying the price. Nobody. And she's lied so many times that she's an habitual liar. And a habitual bitch.
And now, the next case.
Parties on Seacrest versus Laney. Step forward, please.
When Pam Seacrest and George Laney lived together, she says she paid his taxes and bills. Now they're apart, and she wants her money back.
Miss Seacrest, it says in your complaint that several years ago you were living with the defendant and you made him a series of loans for a variety of things totaling about $5,800. One of the expenses were for back taxes that he owed when he was married to someone else, and a variety of other things. Broke up, hadn't seen him for a while, finally located him, and now you want your money.
Yes, that's correct.
Do you owe her the money, sir?
No.
You don't owe her any money.
No.
Did she give you money for taxes?
Yes, you paid it.
How much did she pay for the taxes?
I don't have no idea. I can't remember.
Well, was it $1,000, $2,000?
I don't remember. I have no idea.
Well, if she gave you money for taxes, were those taxes that you owed
She didn't
during
give it to me. She paid it. I have no idea what it was.
Why would she pay your taxes?
We were living together at the time.
Well, they weren't for the taxes during the time you were living together.
No, they weren't.
They were back taxes.
That's right. Absolutely.
So why do you not feel as if you owe her that money?
Well, we lived together for a long time. You know, she gives me the money, and at the time it was not a loan. When we get ready to break up, then it's a loan, you know. So, yeah, I don't feel I owe her anything.
What else did she give you money for
I
that you don't?
have no idea. That's what I'd like to know.
Well, then let's find
Let's
out.
find
Ms.
out.
Seacrest, what else did you give him money for?
There were a couple of his truck payments to the Bank of America here in California. Each truck payment was $322.18. His back taxes totaled from tax year of 1989, and I paid him in 91. They were $3,773.80, and I paid off a cash loan to his sister.
Did you owe your sister money?
Yeah, I guess. I don't
What do you
remember.
mean you guess?
It's 5 years ago. I have to remember last week. You know? I don't remember what happened 5 years ago. That's part of my life I want to try to forget anyway.
He was
she would like to
pretty,
forget it too.
Well,
out
yeah,
of it.
after 5 years. You know, why wait so long to do it?
I couldn't find
What do
you.
you mean you couldn't find me? You knew right where I work.
I called and left a message, and you never returned my call.
Miss Seacrest, you say in
You
your
never left a
original
message,
complaint that you have a promissory note that he signed for this money.
Yes, I do.
You remember signing a note, sir?
She says I did, and I'd have signed the Declaration of Independence at that time, you know, just to get her the heck away from me.
I didn't understand you. You want to go through that slowly for me?
You know, she said I signed one, so I probably did sign it.
Well, if you signed the note for that money, sir, that means that you owe her the money.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
Could I see the note? Do you have it?
Yes.
May I see it, please?
You can see I was being generous, Your Honor.
Would you show this to the defendant?
Judge Once together, now apart, Pam Seacrest wants her money back.
Yeah, that's my signature.
Well, if it's your signature, Mr. Laney, then you owe her the money, sir. So you have to pay her the money. Right?
Okay.
Good. Now, you owe her $5,807. She's waited a long time for her money. I don't know why she's waited as long as she did to pursue this matter. She says it's because she couldn't locate you.
I've tried.
She hasn't tried. She knows where I work. When she left, she knows where. Oh, I don't even want to hear
Bureau
this.
of Madeira. I've tried. I called.
You know everybody
and
in Madeira that knows me. Everybody knows where I'm at. Everybody knows where I'm at.
George, people
Don't
do
even give me
change
that. Don't even
jobs.
start with me.
Well, sir, you have any reason, you think, why she has waited this long to try to get this money that you clearly owe her?
No, I have no reason why she waited this long.
Do you think she just wanted to forget about it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 5 years is a long time, isn't it?
I asked him when we were breaking up, I said, how do you plan to, or do you still plan on honoring this promissory note?
At that time, I wanted to kill you, you know? I mean, heck.
I know. And he said that he didn't have any money or anything. And I said, well, you do have your pickup. I've been paying the payments. Why don't you just sign it over to me? And then he began choking me, and I didn't pursue it after that for a long time.
Well, you owe her, according to this, $5,800. You clearly owe her the money, and the judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
Judge Judy will return in a moment.
Parties on Ford Estango. Step forward, please.
James Estango bought his daughter Sarah a car. When she moved out on Dad and in with Mom, he took back the car. She says it's unfair. He says she's spoiled.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is number 45 on the calendar in the matter of Ford Estango. You may be seated.
These are the most difficult kinds of cases, and really the most distressing for me. These cases involving children who are suing a parent. What's your first name?
Sarah.
Sarah?
Yeah.
And you are Mr.
Estango.
Estango. This lawsuit is really between the two of you. Is that right?
Yes.
You're her mother?
Yes.
Well, I'd like you to stand there for a second. And who are you?
I'm his wife, James.
Okay. I'd like you to sit down. You two folks were married at one time? You had children together?
Yes.
And then you divorced?
Yes.
And Sarah, there was a time, according to your complaint, that you were living with your father.
Yes.
How long after the divorce did you start to live with your father?
It was a long time. When did you guys divorce?
89.
89. I didn't move in with him until like in
94.
Yeah, 94.
And 94.
So
Why did you leave your mom's house to move in with your father?
Because we were having problems. We were arguing. I was a teenager. I teenager where I knew everything, she didn't, and I just pretty much decided to move out.
Got mad at me.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
I'm 16 now.
So you moved out when you were about 14.
Yeah, 14.
That's about the time that teenagers get irritated with their mothers.
Yes, it is.
Especially girls.
Yes.
So you moved in with your father because you thought it was going to be like a paradise,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And you lived with him for a couple of years.
Yes.
You didn't leave your attitude at your mother's house. You brought your attitude with you when you came to your father's house, I assume.
Yeah.
You say in your complaint that there came a time that your father gave you $1,500 to buy a car. You were 15 years old at the time.
Yeah.
He gave all the girls $1,500.
That was very nice of him. Sounds like a nice guy to me. And then you decided to move back with your mom.
Yes.
And that made him mad. And
Well,
because-
he'll tell me how it made him feel. And he kept the car.
Yes.
So now you're suing him for not only the $1,500, but according to your lawsuit, $2,500. $1,000 of that is for your emotional distress.
Yes.
Shh.
Order.
So, Sarah, I want you to tell me how this car deal started.
Well, he sued a worker where he used to work, and then he got the money. And
He got a settlement.
He got a settlement, and he said he was going to give all of us $1,500, me, my sister, and my stepsister. And what he did, and I have the bank statement, which I put the money in my savings account. And
shh, I want Sarah to tell me.
And I bought the car, like, I was kind of picky. I looked at a few cars, and then I finally found the car I wanted. But I pulled out $1,400 because I was going to buy a Duster, which I decided not to because I didn't want to spend all of it. And then when I had the money out, I found the Honda that I wanted, and we bought it. And he told me that I couldn't put it underneath my name, which I found out.
Well, you were only 15 at the time.
Yeah, but I heard that you can put it underneath your name.
Well,
you
who'd
just
you
can't
hear this
drive it.
from? Perry Mason?
No.
Huh?
No.
Your
I heard
father
it-
told you couldn't put it under your name.
Yes.
Because it was had difficulty, couldn't get insurance. You can't sign a contract at age 15. I mean, all of those things. So whoever you heard this from, one of your friends in the street, you got misinformation. Your father told you correctly, you can't have the car in your name. When you got this car, did you have a driver's license?
No, I'm trying to get it right now. I have the permit.
Okay. So you didn't have a driver's license, but you had a car. Now, what happened?
I got the car, and I decided me and him started having problems, and I didn't want to live there. I didn't like the way he was acting with me. I was never right. Everything I said, I was just a stupid little kid. I didn't understand anything, which I know I'm young, but I'm not naive. I know what's going on. And I moved out because I couldn't take him no more. I hated him with the biggest passion. I've never hated anybody with so much.
More than you hated your mother when you moved out
More than
on
I
her.
hated anybody. I've never even known how much I could hate.
A case of a dad taking back his daughter's car continues in a moment.
He did nothing but tell them vicious, vicious lies about me.
James Estengo bought his daughter Sarah a car. When she moved out on Dad and in with Mom, he took back the car. She says it's unfair. He says she's spoiled.
I moved out, and he told me that I can't have my car because I'm leaving him on the circumstances where he had a court date the 25th of August with her to get child support, and I'm bailing out on him because of that.
So he
wants
was
the money.
suing your mom for child support for
Yes.
you.
He's angry at me. I have a letter right here that he wrote me, if you want to look at it, that is saying that he will give me my car back if my mom will have a notarized statement saying that she don't want no more backup child support, which he owes her about $5,000.
That's not true, Your Honor. I don't owe her any
Just let me-
child support.
Well, what this letter says is, did you write this letter?
Yes, I did.
What this letter says is that you were living with your dad for 2 years, and he
Yeah.
didn't ask for any support from your mom for you.
No, he had filed.
Well, but you hadn't paid him any
No.
child support or contributed to support of your daughter when she was living with her
I
father.
bought her clothes.
I've heard that from the other side, and I'll tell you what I usually tell the other side: buying clothes isn't support. That's what parents do for their kids. And he owed you money from the past when she had lived with you for a couple of years, right? Because I'm trying to figure out
Which
when
was
you
all
moved in.
paid in full.
Whatever. So what he's saying is, we wanted to be fair. For 2 years, you expected nothing from. He got nothing from you, and for the next 2 years, until she turns 18, he didn't want to be responsible financially. What I will tell you is that's pretty much what this says. Is that right? So take the letter back. Sir, tell me about this car deal.
Okay. It all started out with my oldest stepdaughter. She needed a vehicle to get to work and back. So I spent $1,500. I went out and bought her a vehicle. My other daughter, Stacy,
How old is Stacy?
she's 21 now. Both of these have graduated from school already, which was part of the criteria she was to meet to get a vehicle also. That and to get driver's license, insurance, and to start showing some respect around the house and to my wife. And none of these criteria were met, not one. And
From what I heard, he didn't give her respect either.
Madam, when she left your house, did you think you had done anything wrong with her?
Yeah, I did.
You
I
did? Did you correct it so that she wouldn't move out of the house?
I couldn't get her to change her mind. I couldn't get her. She just left when I wasn't there.
I have a feel. Well, that was pretty
had to put her
disrespectful.
in
Just
the
a second.
cycle.
That's pretty disrespectful. And I want
Yes,
you to
it
think.
is.
And I want you to think really carefully. At the time your daughter moved out, did you think that as a parent you were doing things that were wrong, that were the kinds of things that would provoke that kind of move?
At the time, no.
Of
But,
course not.
You know, I think of it now, and I know I did some things wrong. But it
Yeah,
was
but you
very
didn't think of it
difficult.
then.
It was very difficult for these girls when we divorced, and I never talked down about her dad. He did nothing but tell them vicious
Just a
lies
second.
about me.
Listen to me. Listen to me. He didn't say these things in front of you.
No, he told the girls.
Well, that's what they're telling you. That's what they're telling you.
I
What I'm
believe
telling
what
you
they're
is you're
telling
not paying attention to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when your daughter moved out of your house, I'm certain as I am that I'm sitting here, that you did not believe you as a mother did anything to provoke her leaving, but that she was leaving because she was a bratty 14-year-old and nothing that you said was right. I mean, she pretty much said that herself.
Correct.
And now you seem to be totally on her side when she says
totally on her side.
when she says that living in her father's house was a hell.
Because I know it is.
Well,
I lived with him for 17 years, and it was pure hell.
She's ready to rule. James Estengo bought his daughter Sarah a car. When she moved out on Dad and in with Mom, he took back the car. She says it's unfair. He says she's spoiled.
I know that he got a settlement from some sort of a case where he came into some money. And he didn't take the money and say, I'm going out to buy myself a new car.
I was very
or a new...
surprised he bought his daughters a car.
Why don't you be quiet a second and listen? He didn't go out and say, I'm going to put this money away for my future. I mean, you work for the police department?
No. Bright Star Security and Protection Service is my own business, and I work for Pinkerton Services.
So he has a
business?
He doesn't run that business. If he was wearing a white shirt, he would be a manager. My boyfriend works for the same company. He does not run the business. He just got hired not too long ago.
Yeah.
Pinkerton
He's a liar that is just beyond.
His whole life has been a lie.
I want to tell you something, sir.
I could show you my identification.
Let me
my
tell you
badges.
something. I don't know who has been feeding this young lady, probably both of you, because as much as you say that he told them bad things about you.
I have my other daughter here
Listen,
that can
listen
also
to me.
tell you.
I've just heard you in open court call him a liar
He is.
in front of your daughter. I've heard your attitude towards everything that he said. Nothing suggests to me, in what you've said to me, that you are putting your daughter first. Now, what I started to say to you before was, he took this money and he said, I have 3 girls and I want to treat them equally. Even a 15-year-old brat, I'm going to give her $1,500 to put in a bank account. Exactly. At 15, when she had no driver's license, she had no insurance, she was probably disrespectful in the home, didn't make any difference. He took the money that he got and he gave it to his children. That doesn't sound like somebody who is a terrible person.
He is a terrible person. You know
well,
what
he's a terrible person. Let me tell you that I don't believe he's a terrible person. I think that he made a gift.
You don't know him.
I think he made a gift to his daughter. Your lawsuit is dismissed. Thank you very much. That's it.
Your Honor. It is her car that he gave to her. You were born a liar, and you will die a liar.
And now the next case.
All parties on Hauser versus Hauser. Step up, please.
Gene Hauser had a backache. He called his brother Michael, a masseuse. Gene was surprised when he got a bill for his massage. Now they're both suffering.
Judge, this is number 46 in the matter of Hauser versus Hauser. You see?
Have you papers here? The brothers Hauser.
Yes.
Yeah. Michael and Gene.
Yeah. Yes, Mike.
You're Mike.
Yes. I'm the good-looking one.
No, I'm the good-looking one. Now, I read your complaint.
Yes.
It's very peculiar, but let me see if I understand it. You gave your brother some back rubs.
Massages, yes.
Is that like a back rub?
Yes.
And then you sent him a bill.
Yes.
And then you say he also owes you money for a phone bill that you took out in your name. You took out the phone in your name, and he was paying it, and then he stopped paying it. Now you're getting done for the money.
Yes.
Is that this case?
Yes, that's the case.
That's the case. Correct, Gene?
Yeah.
First, let's talk about the back rubs.
Okay.
You live together?
No. No.
Who's older?
He's older.
Did you ever live together?
Yes.
When was that?
Approximately a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Well, did you give him these back rubs while you were living together?
No, I did not.
So you moved out?
Yes.
Was that amicable when you moved out?
No.
Well, what happened when you moved out?
I moved in with Mom.
Now, your brother called you according to the complaint and said he had hurt his back.
Yes.
And what did you do?
Well, I was in church at the time, and he called and said that his back went out. He had to have a massage right away, and I told him over the phone that I had to wait until after church was out, and he said he had to have the massage right now. So I left church, went home and got my things and went over and gave him a massage right away.
You had taken massage classes?
Yes, I'm
Are you a licensed massage therapist?
Yes, I am.
Were you a licensed massage therapist at the time you gave him these back rubs?
Yes, I was.
All right. Has he ever done favors for you in the past?
Yes, favors, right.
Like what?
Fix a flat tire, change the oil.
Did he
so
send you a
forth
bill?
in my car. No.
Well, why did you send him a bill for this back rub?
So I spent a year in school and over $5,000 to go to school, and that's my profession is to do massage therapy. And just like his profession is to drive truck. And if his employer called him and said, we have to have you come in on Sunday to work, and then he went to work for his employer.
So you drive a truck for a living. Did
I
you ever
drive a
help him
truck
move
for a
his
living.
things from one place to another?
Yeah, a couple times.
Is that right?
Once.
Michael?
Just
Well,
one time.
once. You didn't send him a bill, did you?
No, I haven't sent him a bill for fixing his car, for being my brother, or anything like that either.
You see, that's the first thing.
Right.
I don't understand that. You know, I mean, I have a brother who's a dentist. If he drills my tooth, I say, thank you, I'll take you to dinner.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
All right. So let's put the back rubs aside for a second, and let's get to the phone bill. Tell me about the phone bill, Gene.
Well, he was living at the house. I asked him to co-sign for the phone bill, okay, for a cellular phone.
Why did you ask him to co-sign for a cellular phone?
Because I broke my back in 1990, and, well, when you break your back and you're off for 3.5 years, you don't have the excellent credit.
So you needed him to co-sign for you?
I needed him to co-sign for me. Since then, I paid
the brother who couldn't pay rent to you. You
Right,
gotta have
right,
co-sign.
He has a
It's coming
credit,
through.
I had the money.
All right. Okay.
So anyway, we went on for a year, everything was fine.
About the time that the phone bill thing occurred, we just had some things that happen in life. A baby was born, transmission on the truck blew up, the dryer blew up.
So you stopped paying the phone bill?
Yeah, just because we couldn't. I mean, you have to pay for the baby.
And what else? What other tragedies befalled your household?
Okay, the car got T-boned.
What's T-boned?
Well, we live in like a corner lot like this.
Just what does T-bone mean?
T-bone's when a car hits the side of your car at 50 miles an hour. That's called T-bone.
Learn something new every day.
Judge Judy will return in a moment.
What did you do when your car got T-boned?
Well, we had to pay the deductible, $1,000 deductible, so my wife can have a car for the babies and stuff like that.
Well, the baby doesn't drive a car.
No, but...
But your wife needed a car. She needed
to
a car.
take the kids to school and blah, blah, blah,
So you fixed the car.
Fixed the car.
And you bought a new dryer.
Bought a new dryer.
What else did you buy?
We had to fix the transmission in the truck that broke.
Did you fix that?
Yep.
What happened to your brother's phone bill?
I didn't pay it. But this is the question. I don't owe him the phone bill. I owe Sprint Cellular the phone bill. Right?
You're telling me that you owe Sprint the
I owe
phone
Sprint
bill?
Cellular the phone bill. I don't owe him nothing.
But if you say to me that he co-signed
Right.
for it, that means that by your not paying the phone bill, Gene, you're screwing up, for want of a more judicial term, his credit. And you know that.
Right.
That's not fair.
That's true.
So didn't we just resolve this case? Look how smart I am.
You're brilliant.
Right? The back rubs, Michael, are on you.
Oh, I gave him half price. I
The
told him in
back rubs,
advance.
Michael, are on you. Say thank you.
Thank you.
The phone bill, Gene, has to be paid because otherwise it's going to negatively impact on this, on his credit. So I'm going to make sure that your credit remains intact because he understands he's wrong. So the judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $549.
Thank you.
Party, step out, please.
Judge Judy will return.
Step forward, please.
Matt Lee is a rock and roller. Alice Brown is not. When Alice took Matt in as a boarder, she says she didn't know he'd be so loud. He says he wasn't. She kicked him out anyway. Now he's singing the blues.
Order. All rise. Order. Your Honor, this is number 66 on the calendar in the matter of Lee versus Brown. You may be seated.
Mrs. Brown.
Yes. Yeah.
You wrote in your complaint that in your answer to the complaint, to Mr. Lee's complaint, that you are 79 years old. Is that right?
Yes.
And you live in a condo?
Yes.
2 bedrooms?
Yes.
And you rented a room to Mr. Lee?
Yes.
How did that come about?
A church friend of mine called in early August and told me that, knowing that I had a room and could use the money, that she had a friend who had a son who needed a room for a couple of months, and I agreed to. I interviewed Matthew's mother, who seemed like a very loving and caring person.
Is that you?
Yes, okay. Mrs. Israel.
You interviewed me as well, right?
Mr. Lee, I'll get to you.
No, I interviewed Matthew's mother only. The second time I saw her, she came with Matthew and a $400 check for the first month's rent. And you wanted me to continue with my story? Okay. So...
Would you stop playing with those papers, sir?
So there was no written agreement, but we had a verbal agreement that there was to be no smoking inside my condo, and that then I saw his amplifier and his guitar, and I pointed out to them that I live in a large condominium complex right on top of my neighbors, and there couldn't be any noise. So, and then we agreed to share the phone bill. That was it. Then I have a signed statement here. I made a simple statement, and 11 of my neighbors signed it.
Tell me what happened in your house with Matthew.
Well, it was the partly. The lifestyle was entirely different, but I'm sure that he did smoke in his room and that he did create a lot of noise on my patio, because 12 of my neighbors attested to that on this paper.
Did you hear the noise?
Yes.
So you heard the noise?
Yes.
How did he make this noise on the patio?
Well, with my boom box that my daughter gave me, his guitar, and his amplifier. And
you said that there was an evening when you invited him for dinner with friends.
yes, that was the same night.
In your answer.
And I had his friend, him and Matthew and his friend for dinner, and then they were out on the patio making noise. And I don't know whether it's true or not, but 2 of the neighbors told me that he was smoking marijuana.
How did you know he was smoking in his room?
Because the room stank of cigarettes.
But you told him you were uncomfortable.
Yes.
Is what you're telling me.
And then he appealed to his parents, came, and they appealed to me for hours about how they wanted him to stay and to give him another chance. And against, I know I stupidly told him that okay. And then I had second thoughts about this, and I called my daughter, Laura, and she and her husband came, and we waited and waited for him to come back, and we talked many times to his parents about his leaving, and would they come? First his mother they were both coming, and then his mother, and then would we take his things to their house, which we did.
Your daughter?
Yes.
Were you at this dinner party?
Can I go up here now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I was.
Did you hear any noise at the dinner party?
Yes. He was playing music on the boom box out on the patio with his friend. And
okay. Did you think it was a good idea that your mom bring in a tenant?
No, not at all. When the first I heard it, she had already agreed to accept this person she had never seen and never met as a tenant in her house. And she had only done this once before with a girl who was a friend of a friend whom she had met before. But because his mother was so nice and she was so sure that this would, because the mother was so nice, that this would be fine and all right. And then, you know.
Good. Why don't you have a seat? So, move these things out. Now, Mr. Lee, you are suing the defendant for $5,000 for this illegal eviction.
That's correct.
Tell me why you think that you are entitled to $5,000 from this lady.
First of all, I have damage to my guitar. They moved this instrument. It's a vintage instrument. It's worth several $1,000s. I have an advertisement for one like it right here in the paper. It is a 50s Les Paul.
You say in your complaint, sir, that the 2 parts of the guitar that were damaged.
There were 3. I forgot to add the one part.
Well, that's your problem. And you're in your sworn complaint, sir, that she was served with, that she has knowledge of, the 2 guitar parts you say were worth $350, not $2,000.
That's right. This toggle switch and the tip ring, this assembly alone is worth that much. I didn't add this in on the complaint, so I guess that's my fault.
Yes, it is.
The case of the lady and the rocker continues in a moment.
How far do you live from the defendant?
About 8 miles.
Why wasn't your son living with you? You want to answer my question? You were sworn to tell the truth,
I'd be glad to answer.
Matt Lee is a rock and roller. Alice Brown is not. When Alice took Matt in as a boarder, she says she didn't know he'd be so loud. He says he wasn't. She kicked him out anyway. Now he's singing the blues.
Now, you're his parents?
Yes.
Step up here. I have a few questions for you. Mr. and Mrs.
Israel.
Mr. and Mrs. Israel. How far do you live from the defendant?
About 8 miles.
Why wasn't your son living with you?
We're living in a small condo.
How small is your small condo?
2 bedrooms.
Why wasn't your son living with you? You want to answer my question? You were sworn to tell the truth.
I'd be glad to answer.
Well, I'd like to hear it.
My son is 37 years old. He's on his own. We have we had to move out of a large home after I had a very serious trauma, coronary infarction, and we moved into a very small condo, maybe 1,500 feet. where I have my office, such as it is, that was left to me after all the that I went through, and there's no room for even a guest. And
Let me
to have
explain
another
something
person
to you,
live-
Mr. Israel.
Yes.
I have trouble believing what you just said to me. You want to know why?
Why?
Because I'm looking at your wife.
Yes.
And according to what the defendant said, this was an arrangement that was going to be a few, not long term, but a few months.
Yes.
And you lived 8 miles away, and I don't care if your son was 37 or 57. This was a short-term arrangement. So there had to be something about your son's lifestyle that you didn't want in your home. Am I correct, Mrs. Israel? Am I correct?
Mhm. Up to a point.
Well, now, up to a point, did you tell this lady that there was something that might have been problematic with your son? Quiet. That might have been problematic with your son? Because I could tell from looking at your face, you're his mother. And if he needed a place to stay for a couple of months, if you hadn't had trouble with him in the past, you would have said, well, you can, even though it might be a tight squeeze, you can stay with us for a couple of months. So there was a reason that he couldn't. I'm not even going to ask you what it was, because I'm too kind for that. I just want you to make sure that you tell me the truth. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes, I understand.
Very good. Sit down. Why weren't you living with your parents?
Because of my hours, which I told Alice about. I said, I'm a musician, I come in late, I do all kinds of things late at night, I have friends that are going to pick me up. I didn't even have a car at the time, so I had people coming by to pick me up. I'm working on a record right now. I just come back from England. I was working with a producer who had to take me.
Are you telling me, sir, that that's why you weren't living with your parents?
Well, my parents and I don't exactly get along to begin with. My father and I have a tendency to clash, and that's one thing.
Clash.
And because of his heart condition, because of that clash, my mother said that it would be best if we got a place. I stayed in hotels before then.
It's not a very difficult case. Can I see what he said? Did you yourself move his property?
My husband and I took all the stuff very carefully, packed it in the bags that he did have with him, and took it over to his mother's condo. His mother met us in the garage by her request, and then I carefully undid the bags. I said, here are all his papers. I opened the case, I showed her the guitar, I showed her the Fender
Can I just see what it is,
amplifier,
please,
other
that you
things.
say was damaged?
Oh, yeah. You can't see the one part here because it's shattered into 1,000 pieces, but these two parts got damaged. And basically what happened, the case is a bit flimsy. The back side of it is open. They could have put something on top of it, like my television set or something heavy that smashed it, but it did smash it.
She's ready to rule. Stay tuned. Matt Lee is a rock and roller. Alice Brown is not. When Alice took Matt in as a boarder, she says she didn't know he'd be so loud. He says he wasn't. She kicked him out anyway. Now he's singing the blues.
Mrs. Israel, you look like a very sweet lady. You weren't honest with the defendant. You saw that this lady was probably older than you are, that you had a problem with your adult son, and he's related to you by blood. He's not related to her. I'm certain that when you told her about him, you didn't tell her any of the points that might have discouraged her from renting this room to him. It's unfortunate that at your age, Miss Brown, you have to share your home with someone, or you felt as if you had to share your home with someone in order to make ends meet. That's very unfortunate. Mr. Lee, I believe Miss Brown when she says that the room that you were in smelled from smoke. I believe that that's true. I believe that she had told you that there was no smoking in her condo. Well, you seem to acknowledge that yourself when you said you only smoked outside, but I don't believe that that's true. I believe that you smoked in the bedroom as well. That was in violation of this oral agreement that you have. You have no cause of action against her whatsoever, and I'm not certain that they broke your guitar, so this lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
And now, the next case.
All parties on Kusid versus Primes. Step forward, please.
Magician Mark Prines performs human levitation. After Naomi Kust volunteered to be raised, she says she wrenched her neck. He wants her to disappear.
Ms. Kusid, I've read your complaint and I've read your answer, sir. You went to a party at a country club, correct?
The party started at a country club, that's correct.
And Mr. Prines was entertaining there doing his magic act?
Not at the country club, at
Where?
the nightclub. We were transported in buses. It was a private party.
So you went to a nightclub afterwards where he was performing?
Where he was hired to entertain the guests.
And you volunteered to be hypnotized?
He asked for people to, he was doing magic tricks and hypnosis, and several people raised their hand, and he selected me amongst other guests.
You volunteered to be hypnotized?
I volunteered to be
hypnotized?
Yes.
Okay, let me hear as much as you remember about this performance from the time you got up on stage.
Okay. He hypnotized me. I remember while I was seated with the other hypnotized people up on the
How many
stage,
were there?
10 to 12 people, I believe. I was, one of the things he asked me to do was put my hand up in the air and say, you can't put your hand down until I say so. And so that was one of the things.
And you kept your hand up?
Yeah. And then, while still under his control, he directed me
Your Honor,
as the
it's not
grand
under my
finale.
control. She is not under my control.
By definition,
by no
hypnosis is a sleep-like state when you are almost unconscious and you are in the control of the person speaking to you.
Hypnotism is the direct communication between to the subconscious mind. It is while in that state of mind where you can communicate with the subconscious mind directly, and whatever makes it into a person's subconscious is their reality.
Many people did what he told them to do. I'm going to let
Do you remember anything else?
Yes, I do.
Well, tell me
Your
what
Honor.
else you remember, and
Okay.
then there'll come a point when you don't
Okay.
remember anymore, and I'll hear your witness.
Fine. Thank you. So he directed me to come center stage. It was a table, two chairs were faced back to back in the middle of a dance floor at this nightclub.
They were
and there
facing
was
face to face.
there was a board stretched between the chairs. And he asked me to sit down first on the board and then lie down. So I did. And then he said, your body is getting stiff, stiffer and stiffer. You are getting stiff as a board. You are getting stiffer and stiffer. And at that point, I guess when I was very stiff, the board was removed. At least that's what people afterwards, they were amazed. They said,
do you remember the board being removed?
What I remember is I heard Mr. Prines yell out to the guests for help because I became, in the middle of the act, I think.
Let me say, I didn't yell out for help. I had two people from the audience that I had help me on each side.
What do you remember next?
What I remember was that I felt, okay.
Your name?
My name is Bert Finmark.
Finmark.
He had two of the other people that were hypnotized at each chair for support, and he had her levitated successfully for a few moments across the two chairs. At that
Without
point,
the board?
After the board was taken away.
After the board was removed?
At that point is where the problem came in. She partially awakened, and she sagged pretty severely at the neck and shoulder area.
You mean she sagged?
She sagged because she was partially awakened. At that point, Mr. Prine and I believe another guest immediately...
Let me say, she did not
You
sag.
interrupting him.
Forgive me.
She sagged pretty severely because immediately Mr. Prine and one of the other guests brought her back to level, and Mr. Prine proceeded to put her under hypnosis again and continued with the act. And after it was over, she complained a little bit at that stage of her neck hurting. And
Did you volunteer?
No, I did not.
Smart. You remember your parents' words, you never volunteer.
The Magician, the Volunteer, and the Levitation Act continues after this.
Mr. Prines, You want to tell me what happened that night, sir?
There are 3 ways that you can end the performance. What I did that evening was to show that she was, that her faith in what was happening had diminished, and it needed to be deepened. And I do this throughout the entire act. With
so
other
you bring him out a
demonstrations.
little bit and then you put him back in. You bring him out a little bit.
Well, actually, what happens just sort of happens, okay? If at any moment, it can be turned, okay?
But
if I
you
feel
do
that she is...
Mr. Price, but what you're telling me is I'm trying to absorb all of this.
On August 6, 1945, the U.S. military dropped an atomic bomb named Little Boy on the city of Hiroshima, instantly killing an estimated 80,000 people and causing widespread destruction. 3 days later, on August 9th, a second atomic bomb named Fat Man was dropped on Nagasaki, resulting in another estimated 40,000 deaths. The immediate impact of the bombings was devastating. Entire city blocks were reduced to rubble, and tens of thousands of people were killed instantly or suffered horrific injuries from the blast and radiation exposure. The long-term effects of radiation sickness, cancer, and other health issues continued to afflict survivors for